Choose life. Choose a job. Choose a career. Choose a family. Choose a fucking big television. Choose washing machines, cars, compact disc players, and electrical cylinders. Choose a podcast. Choose the Untitled Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Untitled Film Podcast. As always, I'm your host Mike, and with me is my good friend Lee.
Yeah, how you doing, Mike? All right?
I'm peachy, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad.
Good stuff. Okay, so it's not been too long since we recorded the last podcast, but might as well ask, what have you been up to in the meantime since we last spoke?
Yeah, so I'll throw this in anyway to start off with, because anybody who listens to the Teen Wolf episode, I think we mentioned that. Well, we definitely mentioned that I went and did the half marathon at Aintree Racecourse, and I said I was going to do another half marathon. It was a Wigan half marathon, so I did that last Sunday. Came in at 1:48, so I beat my previous half marathon record by 5 minutes, which I did at Aintree, which was 1:53. So this was 1:48, so I'm chuffed with that. Managed to shave 5 minutes off it. And
yeah, well done.
Yeah, cheers. And the thing is, though, with Wigan itself, Wigan Town, it's very hilly, so it was a good test. I thought the Aintree was a good test on the legs, but the Wigan half marathon was a really proper good test as well.
Wasn't there a family run on that as well? Because I saw some pictures with you and your little girl on there as well.
Yeah, my run started at 9:30, so I got back from that at just about 11:20. So I came home, just chilled out for a little bit, and then we walked it back into Wigan Town Centre and did the family mile, that which started at 1:00. So me and my little girl and my mum came down, and my stepdad as well. They came down for the weekend because they live in Bristol.
Right.
They came down and they took part as well in the half marathon. So it was nice, yeah. So us four did it together. It was pretty good. Me and my little girl were just running over my hand. She was just holding my hand, and I and my stepdad and my mum were just running behind us. I think they were walking a little bit as well, but me and Emily, we ran the whole way basically. She stopped for a little bit after about 2 minutes and said, "So what's the matter?" Because she was crying. He said, "I don't want to run." So I picked her up and started running with her, and I was like, "You have to go down in a minute because you ever." And my stepdad Alan shouted, and he said, "Can Lee carry me as well?" So anyway, she said to me when I was running with her, she said, "Oh, do I still get a medal at the end of it?" Even though she weren't running. So I just said, "Yeah, you get a medal," but I put her down, and after about 30 seconds, she calmed down and she was into it. Then started running.
That's good.
Yeah, so she was chuffed as well. She got a medal at the end of it, and she took it to school the next day and showed her class that she got this little medal. Oh yeah, so she said next year when we do one, she wants to do it again. So it's a nice little thing. She's been looking forward to it as well, because a few weeks before I went out to the Decathlon store and got her like a coat and stuff, a little thin running coat to wear, but a hood on it as well, just in case it rained that day. And
yeah,
got her some pants as well, and a little running t-shirt as well. Got her some new trainers as well, so she was good to go basically, and she'd be looking forward to it. So all Sunday morning, when it was before my run, when we got up for the run itself, she was, "When's my run? Is my run coming on yet?" I said, "No, it's my run first, the big run." I kept calling it Daddy's big run, and then it's your run later on in the afternoon. But it weren't too bad, yeah. So I went off and did my run, and she went off with me mum and my stepdad into Wigan. I think they had a cake and like a cup of tea or whatever, and a chat. And then I said, "Make sure you're back here for about 11:00, because I could be coming back in around about that time, just after maybe, so they could get a few pictures of us." And they said they turned up about back at Wigan Town Centre for about 5 to 11 or something. And I came running in about between 15:15 and 11:20. So
right.
Yeah, so it was good. Really enjoyed it. So my next one is the Charlie 10K in May. I think it's May the 12th. So there's no half marathon this time. It's just a 10K, so just over 6 miles. So you guys can have a rest this time.
Plenty of time to get yourself in shape for it, because if it's 12th of May, you got a good
Yeah, well, this one,
so.
Yeah, it was 10Ks. Yeah, 10Ks. It's only like half the size of a half marathon, or just a bit less. So this will be an easy one, this one. But yeah, it was a good day. The Wigan Half Marathon and the Wigan Run itself, it was good. A good turnout because I think they did the 5k, the 10k that day, and they did the half marathon, and then they did the family mile later on. And every race, from what I've seen on pictures, got a good turnout. I think in my race, of 980 people took part.
Right.
I think I finished 251st or something like that. So
top 25% there.
Yeah. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, I got a good start, and then got into my little groove kind of thing, and slowed it right down, got to my pace, and kept it going. I noticed that when I started and I got to 3 mile, which was just over 3 miles, 5k. I looked at my watch and I was at 21 minutes and 25 seconds. So I beat my best personal 5k record as well. Just
nice.
I was trying to keep up with all the other runners as well, because some of them other runners they run for like Wigan Harriers and Lee Harriers and stuff, and like kind of like do it professionally in a way.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So trying to keep up with them was tough, and but yeah, it was good. I got a good start, found my groove, got into it, kept checking the watch, and then when I checked my watch, I thought, right, I've nearly finished. I've only got to go down the road, and then I'm back. And then when I came in, could see the clock as I was approaching the finish line, it was 1:47, and it just clocked over to 1:48 when I got in. So, but overall, I was chuffed, because I kept thinking, I want to beat my previous time, if you know what I mean. Otherwise, I put a bit of damper on things. And yeah, they did it. Yeah, so 5 minutes. So chuffed with that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm out of breath even talking about it, so let's get on to talking about what we're here to do. So, what have you been watching since we last recorded the podcast?
Yeah, I think the last one we did was Lord of the Rings, wasn't it, with Chris?
With Chris, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously I've watched the Labyrinth for a bit of a refresher for this, and watched a couple of special features as well on the Labyrinth, just for any tidbits I could use for this episode. What else I watched? I watched Overlord. You've watched that at the cinema yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, I watched it when it came out. I was...
I think it was when I saw the trailer, because I pointed it out to you, I think, before it was released at the cinema. I said, check this out, and...
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It did look like a fun watch, and I watched it, and like I said to you off that it started really well. I was into it, but the more the film got going, the more I kind of felt like, you've seen it before in other films, and I was kind of like, it was a bit predictable at the end. I've kind of losing interest, but I thought maybe up to halfway through, I was glued to it. Then later on, I was a bit like, nah, it's seen it before.
Yeah, it was. I was a bit disappointed, because when I remember you sending me the link for the trailer, and I was like, oh, this could be like. At the time, I was playing through Wolfenstein.
Oh yeah.
I was playing Wolfenstein 2, and I thought this could be, similar to that, because Wolfenstein 2, was it the New Order that it's called? Or, no, the New Colossus is the second one.
Yeah, the New Order is the first one.
That's the first one, yeah, that's right. I really enjoyed it. I hadn't played the New Order until after I played the New Colossus. But I liked it that much, I went out and got New Order, and I got the expansion pack, the New Blood as well.
Oh yeah.
The DLC, because it was just a good action game, similar to like Doom and all that kind of stuff. But it had a real kind of sly sense of humour to it, a real dark satire to it, which I kind of didn't expect, because I'd never played a Wolfenstein game before. So when you sent me the link for the trailer, it was kind of right up my alley, because my mindset was kind of like, I was into that kind of thing. I was like, yeah, this could be, like a decent film equivalent. It shares, obviously, similar subject matter with like undead and, what looked like zombies and Nazis and all this kind of stuff. And then when the film came out, I just thought, it's just really fucking boring.
Yeah.
There was just no like sense of fun to it, considering like the
trailer made it look a bit like a Dog Soldiers kind of film.
Yeah, it could have gone that way, but it just the trailer made it look more exciting than what it turned out to be, and it kind of like had all of the elements that were in the trailer, but it was just the the final package just didn't seem to gel for me.
Yeah.
I think it was really poorly paced because like I didn't like the opening at all. I thought,
Oh, actually, I quite enjoyed that. I was
no, the
on
first.
the point at the start
Well,
and stuff.
not so
I
much
like
like
that.
no, not that specific scene, but like the opening like act, like where it's setting up the story. I thought it took fucking forever to get anywhere, and I was just
No, see, I went the way around though. I enjoyed it because it was taking its time, so I was into it. But it felt when it got about halfway through, it speeded up a lot then. And as I said, it was kind of I felt like I was what I've already seen it done in other films better.
yeah. It didn't work for me at all, which is a shame because
Yeah,
I had high expectations for it, and that's probably my fault going in there with the the expectations that I had. But yeah, I didn't like that at all. I thought it could have been a lot better. It just needed that sense of fun.
yeah,
It needed just to be. It was one of those films. It's kind of like, yeah, we're dealing with a wartime Nazi kind of World War II type thing. But we're going to bring the occult into it. We're going to bring kind of like the undead and experiments and all these kind of things that the Nazis were rumoured to do. So we're bringing these fantastical elements into it. But it just at no point did like the story or, the direction just, have someone just turn and wink at the audience and just say, we know this is ridiculous.
yeah,
So, come along for the ride with us kind of thing. And I think if it just... acknowledge the fact that it was, absolutely, batshit insane kind of thing and just had fun with it, then it would have had that, just
would
that,
have been
yeah,
better, yeah.
it was
Did
just
you
missing it.
did it have much CGI in there? Regarding the creatures and stuff like that? Because what I'm thinking back to now, at the time when I watched it, and I thought, oh, I'll cover this on the one of the podcasts. That it seemed a bit more. Like it didn't have the CGI in for the monsters.
I think
which was quite nice.
I think there was kind of like a lot of the stuff like the makeup effects were practical, and I think
Yeah,
if there was any CGI on the monsters, it was probably just, I don't know, just to touch up here and there, smooth out a
yeah,
few
yeah,
wrinkles.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
there was nothing that stood out to me like, being egregious when it came to like the CGI. Obviously, there was. That's the problem with like movies nowadays. You can't. I know a lot of people kind of like rag on CG and stuff like that, but there's a lot of movies now that are utilising computer-generated imagery for
yeah,
things in the background that you don't necessarily notice when you're watching the film. I mean, if you go onto YouTube and you type in kind of like VFX breakdowns, there'll be hundreds and hundreds of videos that you can see for, films like Blade Runner, 2049, but everything,
yeah,
and like some of the things that you thought was a special effect or put in CG after the fact are practical, and other things that you're not particularly looking at in frame is CG. They're doing
yeah.
digital set extensions and, all of these kind of things in the background that aren't the main focus now, and I think a lot of films are kind of like starting to hide the joins really well about what's overtly CG and what's practical. And I think it tends to work better when it's just kind of, like I say, a digital set extension or,
Correct. Yeah, you're right.
just putting a back... Like Ridley Scott does it with all of his films. It's like, look at The Martian, look at Prometheus and Covenant. He literally creates like backgrounds and paintings, and he'll shoot a plate in the desert for The Martian, and then he'll go and shoot, mountains or cliffs in Norway, and he'll get the computer effects team to actually stitch them together. So, the mountains that were shot in Norway in a green, wet environment are now part of this, kind of desert landscape.
Yeah, and it works though.
And you would never you would never realise kind of thing. So I think Overlord, I don't think there was anything, that stood out as bad CGI, because I think they used the CGI for, the castles and, extending the backgrounds and putting the buildings here and there and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think any of the creatures were CGI that I can
No, I don't
remember.
think. I was just thinking back to that. One of the squad mates. I think it's kind of like near the end of the film. When they capture that like the Nazi general, don't they, and they have up in the attic, and he breaks out and he injects one of the teammates, and he ended up turning into one of the creatures.
Yeah, yeah.
If I think back to that, he weren't CGI'd. You know, like if he was.
No, I think he was just under really. I mean, there's obviously the bit towards, and spoilers here if you haven't seen the film, but there's a bit towards the end where he's mutating more and more and more, and doesn't he take a shotgun blast to the face or something? So obviously they've gone and.
Oh yeah, the Nazi general. Yeah, and his jaws hanging off.
Yeah, so obviously they've done that with a mixture of kind of like practical prosthetics on his face, and then obviously taking away, you know, part of his jawbone and, you know, all that kind of stuff with CG kind of things. So,
I mean, if you had to compare it to say like, I've mentioned this film I think before, but The Thing, the remake, like sequel kind of thing, prequel did it.
Yeah.
Because they just went full out CGI for that film, which ruined it. They didn't use any practical effects like the original film. So if you had to compare The Thing remake or whatever prequel to this Overlord, I'd pick Overlord off the effects wise because there was no CGI from what I could tell.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we've kind of touched on it on an earlier episode, maybe, or on. I can't remember if it was on an episode of Get to the Shop. But I know we've discussed it before about like the Thing prequel. It's always struck me as weird because when they were making the film, the special effects were all done in camera, and it was only after the fact that they decided to go in and put CGI over the practical effects that they used in the film because the producers weren't happy with it. And they, for whatever reason, decided to, you know, CGI the whole movie up, and it doesn't kind of.
No, it didn't look right, and
no.
That was the good thing. That's the good thing about the original film, innit? That's why it still holds up so well now. The practical effects in that still look good to this day.
Yeah. And that's that. I think we got on talking about that because all of the like rejected special effects, if you will, that they used for the Thing prequel, they amalgamated dynamics with the studio who did it. Is it ADI? Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff, who have done like practical effects for the Alien vs Predator films, Alien 3 onwards, Alien Resurrection, all that kind of shit. They took all of kind of like the rejected puppets and prosthetics and stuff like that, and they crowdfunded a movie called Harbinger Down with Lance Henriksen. Not a great film, but they basically, you know, used all of.
Yeah, you remember you mentioned. Is that like the kind of like the like a spiritual prequel, sequel kind of thing instead of The Thing?
I think it was just just like a script that they put together. I haven't seen it, but I just know that's what they went and did with it after the fact because it was a crowdsourced or crowdfunded film. And you know they put all of the unused special effects into that just to because it's such a shame when you know you've got all of these talented artists, you know, putting literally hundreds of man hours into, you know, molding, you know, shaping, painting, all of this kind of stuff, and you know, just as the course of a film's being made, some studio exec who hasn't even been onto the set decides that they don't want to use practical effects and will just use CGI, and your work is never seen. You know, it's literally removed. Someone's taken an eraser to the movie and kind of erased your work out of it and copy and pasted generic CG shit over it.
I know, yeah. And the thing is, though, the CGI was poor CGI in that film. You could tell it was dodgy CGI.
Yeah, I think that was because it was like a last-minute decision to actually put it in, and it's like any kind of CG. You need time to, you know, refine it and get it looking right. And 9 times out of 10, you can always, as an audience goer, you can always tell when something's CG when it's something overt like that. Yeah, I know I've just spent 5 minutes saying about how CG is getting a little bit more sophisticated with the use, but when something is front and center, especially when it's trying to portray a human or something that's humanoid, because we deal with people every single day, your eye knows when it's not a real person, as good as the CG is.
Yeah, well, this is the thing what we touched on, was it with the Lord of the Rings regarding Quiet Place. We said about the creatures and that as well, because leading up to the part before you saw the creatures, you were like, oh yeah, I'm into this. You know, what's really creepy and stuff. And what are these monsters? What are the creatures? You don't really see them. You just see them like flash past the camera a few times. Snatch like that little kid at the start, and you think, what are these? And then when you physically see them, you're like, oh, so disappointed. It's a CGI.
Yeah,
monster.
It's like I say, the CGI now has got to the point where if it's creating something that, you know, is an object, like, you know, a car or a building or a forest or something like that, something, you know, in a natural environment, it's got to the point that it's so photoreal you can't distinguish it. But when it's, you know, used to create a person or a creature, there's the thing that they haven't quite cracked, apart from like the uncanny valley effects when you're trying to create a human. You know, that's one thing you can always tell. Like, even though it's getting better and better, like Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars in Rogue One, that was really good. And then they did a de-aging of Rachel in Blade Runner 2049, didn't they? Which was good, but there was just something just a little bit off about it. And you cannot, as good as like human, you know, recreations are in the computer, it's never perfect. There's always something just a little bit off.
Was that like a de-aging process like they did with Michael Douglas in, you know, Ant-Man?
No, I think they took it one step further because they had an actress on set. I can't remember her name, but she was like a stunt double. So she had like the wig on, and they mapped her face, and then they went and got footage from Blade Runner with young Sean Young, and then they kind of mapped her face off that, made a kind of digital mesh, and then they got Sean Young in. Obviously, she's old, she's a bit jowly now, she isn't as attractive as what she used to be because she's an older woman. But they were able to take like her face now as it is and kind of make it a little bit younger and get the because your skull doesn't change, even though like your muscles and the layers of fat and stuff under your skin, they move and change as you age, but your bone structure doesn't necessarily change. So they mapped her skull and they kind of meshed the two together. And they did a proof of concept, which again you can find on YouTube, where they had like the digital mannequin young version of Sean Young, and they did shot-for-shot remakes of like the Voight-Kampff test from the original Blade Runner, and it's very, very close, but with it you can still tell that, you know, it's not real, even though it's really, really close. And I think the issue sometimes is that the computer renders things that would normally be blurry or slightly out of focus in sharp focus. So like a glint in her eye is a little bit sharper on the computer version than what it is in real life, because just because of the way, you know, things work. But I lost my train of thought because I where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so aside from like humans and stuff, if you're creating like a digital character, I don't think they've quite cracked the sense of weight that something has in the real world.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
you always kind of feel floaty and not necessarily like a real object with real weight and mass. So because when you see it in a film now, you kind of like, you can tell because it's, your eyes are not fooled. That's the thing; it doesn't fool us, does it? You can see and think that's CGI, and you know what I mean. It's not a real person, so they've not got to that part yet, have they? Where they've managed to trick us yet to believe in. No, I think, you know, CGI is best used when it's just kind of like hiding the wires here, and you know, doing set extensions or changing the background, putting a cloud over here or putting a building over there and stuff like that, because that's what CG is exceptionally good at. But when it comes to, you know, creatures and people and humanoids and stuff like that, if it's, you know, a close shot or a medium shot even, you know, it's always difficult because you can be fooled. If it's something that's far away and you're doing it for like, you know, crowd extensions and stuff like that, where the individuals are small, it works fine. But yeah, I'm going to stop ranting about CG anyway, because
That's
yeah.
my fault that I mentioned Overlord.
That's okay. Right, let's get back on track then. So, you've watched Overlord. What else have you watched?
Overlord, Labyrinth, and also I've been on a bit of a Simon Pegg, Nick Frost binge session recently because I've watched Shaun the Dead because I've not seen it for maybe a year or two now. So I thought, wow, I'm going to give that a watch. I watched Hot Fuzz as well, but I skipped Hot Fuzz. After watching Shaun the Dead, I went on to World's End because that's the film I've seen the least out of the three. And then I went back and watched Hot Fuzz as well. Brilliant films, I'm free, as we know. So I've noticed that the Slaughterhouse Rules has been released on Showbox. I think it's been at the cinema now and stuff like that, but you could download it on Showbox. So I thought, right, I'll give that a whirl because Simon Pegg's in it and Nick Frost himself, the reunited kind of thing. Even though I don't think even though they're not actually on screen together in this film, together at the same time. But I thought, yeah, I'll give it a whirl. It's not directed by Edgar Wright. He's got nothing to do with it. So it's not from the minds of Shaun the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and At World's End's creator. But with them two being in it, I thought, yeah, let's give it a try. And like I said to you off mic, that it's just skip it. It's not.
It's
you
shit.
Enjoy it. Yeah, it's shit. Yeah,
It's
skip
shit.
it. Yeah. Just because I'm touring it, don't be fooled. It's not a good watch.
No.
Did you watch it at the cinema? Did you say?
I didn't know. I watched it at home. It was one of those where I was going to watch it at the cinema, but I just didn't get around to it. I caught it on a download from a bay which is infested by pirates, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't, even, get so far as to wasting the petrol to jump in the car and go over, because I fell asleep through the film 3 times. I don't even remember actually seeing Nick Frost turn up in the film because I'd nodded off. It's not a great sign when you nod off 3 times in a film, so it's not something I'm going to be revisiting. I couldn't even tell you what happens in the film. There's a school, and a lad goes there, and from what I've seen in the trailer, spooky things happen. That's all I know. I don't care. Beyond that, I don't care, because the film just kind of like literally bored me so much that I watched the first 15-20 minutes.
Fell asleep.
Fell asleep, woke up, saw some faces, nodded off again, woke up again, fell asleep again, and then the final time I woke up, it was finished, and end credits. So,
well, you didn't miss anything anyway.
Yeah,
I enjoy it. I think because I watched it over 2 nights. So I watched the first night, and then I stopped it, went to bed, and then the next night I thought, well, I've watched half of it now, I might as well continue and finish it off. And when I was watching the second half, I just thought, just end now this.
Yeah, and the only thing I know about the film, beyond it having Michael Sheen in it, and Pegg and Frost, and what's his face, Asa Butterfield, he's in it as well.
Yeah.
I know that it's directed by Crispian Mills, who was in the indie band Cooler Shaker back in the 90s.
All right.
So, shit music and shit director from my point of view. So,
I mean, there were moments in the film as well, though, where it's kind of felt like it was trying to be a little bit of a Cornetto trilogy, steal scenes from it. Because, when the parts when in like Hot Fuzz, Shaun the Dead, when he puts something in the fridge and it'll do it quick, like a quick
like
shot
a quick,
kind of thing. And it does it a lot in Hot Fuzz as well, from what I remember.
Well, it's one of the staples of Edgar Wright's kind of editing, isn't it? It's kind of, you get those smash cuts and zooms and, mini montages to kind of like show action.
I think it was Shaun the Dead when he's putting some milk in the fridge, and it speeds that up when he puts it into the fridge, and next thing you know, he's stirring a cup of tea or something like that.
Yeah, and like in World's End, it's like when they're pouring the pints in the pub. And then the last one is like pouring a fucking a glass of water or whatever it is.
Oh no! Is it when they go to when they start the pub crawl and they're all putting, it shows that they all pouring a pint, and it's like 4 pints and then a glass of water.
Or is it a Pepsi or something like that? Because I think it's out of one of the nozzles, isn't it? Just like
but I think there was one scene in Slaughterhouse Rules what's kind of used that that kind of like look what he uses Edgar Wright in his films. But don't be fooled, it's not a good film.
Yeah. I mean, Pegg and I know a few people don't really like Simon Pegg, but I like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost together, and you know, they can be in movies that they haven't, you know, written, or movies that aren't directed by.
Well, they did that Paul, didn't they, together?
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to get onto that because I thought Paul was actually quite an enjoyable film, even though it's not an Edgar Wright film, and you know, it's.
Yeah, and I think because them two were the main leads in that film, weren't they?
Yeah.
Like they're in the Edgar Wright films. But in this, they were kind of like side characters in a way.
Yeah.
It was the young boy and his mate who were the main characters, and then there was a girl turned up. And
I think it's a little bit of stunt casting, and you know, like you said, it you know, it doesn't seem to work, and I think the film obviously doesn't work around them, you know, because it just couldn't hold my attention whatsoever. So, fuck it. So Slaughterhouse Rules. Skip it. We've talked about this film too much. It doesn't deserve us ranting on about it any longer. Fuck it.
Apart from that, then I've watching The Walking Dead. That's still going strong. This season anyway, regardless of what people thought about the previous season, but this season's been really good. So if you need to give it a watch, really get back into it.
No, it's not going to happen.
Oh yeah, you've got to get started from the start, and you kind of
it's not going to happen. It lost me, and I've got zero interest. Regardless of how good it is now, I don't think I could get through like that second season to get to the good bits because, you know, I've just got no interest in going back. I used to read the comics. I got up to like 150 issues in or something like that, and that suffered the same fate of the TV show. It was the conception behind the Walking Dead is, you know, not necessarily about telling a story that's got an ending to it. It was always conceived as being a story where they would have characters come in and go out of the story, and it's how these new characters who are introduced interact with like your core characters and the you know, the relationships between them, just to kind of keep things fresh and stuff like that. But for me, because I'm an old man, a story has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And when you've got something like that which doesn't have a defined ending and is just meant to go on and on and on, you're going to lose me. Whereas, and I know it's a criticism that could be leveled against any comic book, because, you know, you've got Superman that's been going for 75 years or more, Batman, you know, they're all characters that go on and on and on, but they have defined stories within, you know, the overarching kind of comic book runs, you know. So there will be an arc, there'll be a story that lasts for 12 issues, but it'll come to an end, and then it'll move on to the next story. You know, so it's episodic in that nature. And I know kind of like the Walking Dead comic books are kind of episodic when you introducing new character, when they got to the prison or when they got to the farm and all this kind of stuff. But it just...
season 2 would it be?
Yeah, well, it didn't seem to move anything on. You know, there was no... I think what it is because of the nature of the actual story about the zombie apocalypse and stuff like that. It's very difficult to keep it feeling fresh when there is such an overriding sense of doom and no hope.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, this is the end of the world. There's nothing that our main characters can actually do to change it. They're not going to find a cure to the zombie apocalypse. It's way beyond that. It's just about survival for them. And
it's a shame really that they don't. If you think back to Day of the Dead, you know, the George A. Romero, the third film in his trilogy.
Yeah,
the Doctor in that was trying to find a cure, wasn't he? And trying to find a cure, and it was also he was a doctor, and he was also trying to train the zombies, when he as well, you know, and get them to understand them and get them to understand us and get them to you know what I mean, befriend us where they don't try to eat us, but they've never really gone into anything like that, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, right, okay, it's just survival, and there's one gang over here, we're going to take them out, there's another gang over there, we're going to take them out before they take us out. It seems to be like that. But if you're going off, like I said, the previous seasons, they've all been a bit, they've been all right. A few ups and downs, basically, but I think this season it's come back with a bang, and it's been really good.
Yeah, good.
But,
I'm glad you're enjoying it, but it's just not something that I would want to revisit.
Yeah, I think as well, because I've got that far into it now, I might as well
You're
see
invested,
it through.
yeah.
That's it. Well, I might as well, unless something happens and I think, right, that's just too much for me now, that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to revisit that again.
I mean, if you had told me, that this was something that was going to go on for nearly 10 years, I'd be like, nah, not in this day and age.
Yeah.
Not in this day and age.
But I can't see how it's going to end, though, because, like, they found Negan.
That's the problem entirely. It's like...
They came across Negan a few seasons ago, and he's got Negan, and he's gang there, and you're like, oh, yeah, there's a badass. And then now the Whisperers are coming to it, and they're getting portrayed to be even badass than Negan. So it's always going to be like, yeah, we'll take these out, and then who's going to come along next? There's going to be somebody badder than previous, you know what I mean? Or harder to take out. So I don't know where they're going to go, but apparently I read something a few years back that the writers or something it's come up with like ideas for another 10 seasons of it, something like that. So you're looking at like nearly 20 seasons of The Walking Dead.
Well, they couldn't even flesh out the fear of The Walking Dead, because from what I've read on that screwed the pooch as well. So it's like,
I never watched any of that. I think season 1 was supposed to be like, and then I think it was season 2 what picked up and was supposed to be really good, and then season 3 was shit or something.
It's just they found something that was successful and they just absolutely flogged it to death. And I don't, for the life of me, I don't understand how it's managed to get beyond like the second and third seasons.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, when you said you give up at season 2, that girl like missing in the barn, I was at that point a few times back then. I was thinking, where is this going? It's boring me now.
But the thing that bugged me about that is like one thing that would take an entire 45-50 minute episode to
got stretched out for like half a series or something.
Yeah, it was like in the comic books, some things would happen in literally 2 or 3 issues, but they would take those 2 or 3 issues and they'd run it out to like 6 episodes, and it's like, hang on a minute, you only needed, because if you read an issue of The Walking Dead, I think it's only like 20 pages, maybe 25, something. It's not, each issue is not like a thick kind of thing. So something that was done in like 25 pages and they're stretching it out episode after episode after, it's just like, for fuck's sake, just get on with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, yeah.
Yeah. And then I shared a post on Get to the Chopper group the other day about Sliders maybe returning for season 5, I think it is. So I've got the box, well, the set anyway, season 1 to 3 DVD set at home here. So I just thought, well, I've not watched them for a while, so I'm going to dig that out. So I dug that out last night and started watching episode 1 of season 1. Very 90s anyway from what I saw, but like you wish, Slaughterhouse Rules, Mike, I fell asleep because it was getting on, and so I need to go back and revisit it. So that's my next mission anyway, to go through the Sliders TV series.
It was never something that captured my imagination. It's something that should have been right up my alley, because I'm a massive fan to this day of like Quantum Leap. I grew up with that, and it's a similar kind of concept to that. But it felt like the.
Did you watch it back in the day?
I'd never watched it religiously. I've seen a few episodes.
Yeah, see, I watched it back in the day, and I think I watched maybe like season 1 and 2 at the time, and I don't think I've ever seen season 3, and definitely not seen any season 4. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Well, according to Wikipedia, mate, there's a season 5, so.
All right.
Yeah. So if it does come back,
so it must be season 6 then.
It'll be season 6. Yeah. It just felt like a poor man's Quantum Leap to me, and it just didn't do it for me. I've got very little interest in that coming back, to be honest. So, especially if it's going to be with the original cast, who, let's face it, they've all kind of slipped into, purgatory, haven't they? They've not really done anything of note, have they?
And as well, you got to think as well that they're probably in what's Jerry or Connell now? He's got to be in his 50s, hasn't he?
Ooh, I'd say he's mid 40s to 50s, probably. I mean, yeah.
The last film I saw him in was that. He was in Scream 2 when he was in that Kangaroo Jack, because when we worked at the cinema, that got released there.
Yeah. I think he's kind of like kept himself busy on TV because I've seen him in a few things on TV. Like he pops up. I was watching that Billions. I watched that first season of Billions.
Oh yeah.
And he popped up in that for a few episodes and.
Yeah, he's probably done a lot of TV work, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Opposed to like stellar movies.
But
do you remember? Do you remember? I'm just getting this in mind. Do you remember when we went to the cinema while we were talking about Kangaroo Jack? And I think I came in one time. I don't think I was working that day, but you was on shift. Remember, you had a uniform on and stuff, and I came in. I don't know if I ever came in for pick something up or whatnot, or a meeting or something. I'm not sure. And I came back in the foyer, and Calvin, the manager at the time, he changed the trailers. What the trailers, like the video, what shows in the foyer for the public to see. The movie trailers. It's not like 10 films or something, and it just on loop all day. And I remember me and you stood there in the cinema, just like in the foyer talking, and Calvin come out and said, "I've just changed the trailers, the DVD for the trailers or whatever with the videotape." So all right, okay, let's have a see what comes on there. And then it was the Superman music came on. I mean, you was like, all right, okay, they could be the new Superman film this. And when it got into it, it was Kangaroo Jack.
Because it had that stupid little fucking kangaroo singing.
Yeah,
and that was kind of. I don't think there was that many trailers on that particular disc.
Was Terminator on it?
I think it was, yeah. I think it was. But what happens, or what used to happen, is like the trailers that we showed in the foyer, for anyone who doesn't know, they used to come on a DVD back in like the early days. It was just like, maybe about a dozen trailers on a DVD, and we'd get sent a new DVD every month or so with like updated trailers, so we could display them for the public on the TVs that were around the rigging in the actual foyer of the cinema. And I do remember Calvin actually coming out saying, "Yeah, I've just changed over the disc and new trailers and blah blah blah." So we both, we heard the music and we looked up, and then it turned out to be this fucking Kangaroo Jack, and we're like, "What the hell is that?" And he just kind of, we got on with it. But the problem is with that disc, I think there was only about 6 or 8 fucking trailers on it. So it looped itself so much. And you heard that stupid fucking kangaroo singing every 20 minutes or so. And it used to drive me insane. It was just like...
hip it in the hip.
And I literally just fucking... My brain just couldn't handle it. Because I was just like, get it out of my fucking brain.
I remember the one with Men in Black as well. Men in Black 2 trailer was on loop as well. And he's... it was Will Smith saying something at the end of the trailer. It was when I first started. There was that on loop, and it was Ice Age. The first Ice Age were on loop as well.
Huh.
Where's the baby? Where's the baby? There he is.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. That was one of the worst kind of like things about working at the cinema, when, if you were on a daytime shift and there was no one coming in through the day because like the schools were not on, the kids weren't on school holidays. You were just lucky if you had like 6 people coming into the cinema, but you were just stood around, listening to these fucking trailers going round and round and round in circles.
Oh, they still go around in my mind now. I don't want to think of it.
Yeah.
But the other day as well, actually, while I was just sticking to the cinema stories, is I was out somewhere. I think it was in a shop somewhere. And they must have been playing an old CD from like the early 2000s. And do you remember when we used to clean the screens and you used to have the music on it after the film had finished, and the light, we put the lights on and stuff like that. We'd have to go in and clean the screens. You used to have like it was like a couple of music tracks and they're playing in the background as you clean it up. And at the time, I always remember I can't remember it was that girl group. There were 3 of them. There was one girl and there was like a half caste girl. There was another girl, but I think they called it, the song was like "Freak in the Morning" or "Freak in the Evening" or something. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I heard the song the other day in the shop, it took me straight back to the cinema, like cleaning it with the bloody brush and sweeping up the popcorn and stuff. And
Wasn't that on the... Was it Charlie's Angels? I can't remember. I know what you mean though. Yeah.
Because there was that one, and there was that Shakira, wasn't there? Whatever or something. Whatever. We'll be together. That was always on. I was like, oh. Just funny though when you hear bits of music like that, and it just takes you straight back.
Yeah. Just a quick one as well while we're talking about the cinema. I saw Stan. He was listening to our one of our other episodes.
Which one? Lord of the Rings.
The one that I told the story about the Star Trek fans just fucking sitting on their asses when Scream 1 went out of focus, and he's basically confirming what we said was the issue. It was Tony's fault. So he's saying definitely Tony's fault.
I wonder if he's still in touch with Tony.
I don't know, but I know he put a picture up on Facebook the other day with Lee, who was another projectionist. So.
Oh yeah. It was was he from Birkenhead?
I think he moved down to Birkenhead.
Birkenhead, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember going around to he had a party at his house, and it was up in Radcliffe, actually not far from where I live at the moment.
Right.
Yeah, it's just around the corner, because he used to play pool for the pub directly opposite where he lived. But then I remember him moving down to Birkenhead. I think he actually went to work at one of the Warners over at Birkenhead. Yeah, because he was just under Tony, wasn't he? He was like deputy under Tony.
Yeah, I didn't really have that many speakings to him, because I think he was always pretty much he always kept himself to himself. I remember
he was he was kind of quieter, but
he was quiet,
he was a film nerd. So me and him had quite a few like film debates. You know, we used to always have the argument about, you know, what was better out of like Tarantino. Is it Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And you put me onto quite a few of like the earlier John Woo movies, because at that point I hadn't seen much like Hong Kong action cinema. So you put me onto things like A Better Tomorrow and, you know, those Chow Yun Fat films. And he was banging to his movies, mate. So yeah, me and him used to have quite a few conversations. But I know what you mean. He was a quiet sort. Yeah, but I think most of the projectionists did, apart from, you know, Tony. So
yeah.
Right. Anything else that you've watched? What was that?
Oh, I've watched a couple of episodes of The Storyteller as well. That was just because it's like The Labyrinth. It's Jim Henson's the man behind The Labyrinth. So Jim Henson's behind The Storyteller as well. 2 episodes anyway. So I've been watching that as well, because a lot of it is linked into Labyrinth. Like
we can get into those once we get into Labyrinth a bit.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that much, sadly. So it's a good thing that you've been waffling on, because I've not really got that much to talk about.
I thought I'd best play catch up, because when we do an episode and you always wrap off of this stuff that you watched, and me like when you watch like 2 things, you know what I mean?
It's but the shoe's on the other foot this time round, isn't it? So it's a nice change of pace to have you talking, more than me for a change. So the only thing I've actually really kind of put any time into watching recently is on Netflix. It's one of the new shows. It's an anthology show made up of like different animated stories. It's that Love, Death and Robots.
Oh yeah, somebody on Instagram I used to go to school with posted a picture. They said they were watching it the other day, so I've never heard of it. But I think I was reading his comments, and he was saying he's watched so many episodes in now, and he said he's really enjoying it, and it's a must watch kind of thing. So
I would agree with that. Yeah, 100%. I would agree and say it's a must watch. I know it's had a little bit of a flack online because of some of the content in some of the episodes, but I really, really kind of really enjoyed it. It's Tim Miller is kind of like credited as coming up with the idea of it. Tim Miller, for anyone who doesn't know, he directed the first Deadpool movie. So yeah, that's what he's been doing since, Deadpool. Really. I know he's directing Terminator 6 at the moment, but in the meantime he's kind of like credited as being the creator for this. Basically it's kind of...
Just stick with Terminator. Terminator's got a name now on it. Is it like The New Dawn or something?
Isn't it Dark Fate?
Dark Fate, that's it, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Dark Fate. There's no need to call it Terminator 6 now anymore for anybody.
It's still Terminator 6, isn't it? It's the 6th movie in a franchise that should have ended after the 2nd, so...
Definitely.
Yeah.
Did you ever play the game, though?
No.
The one on the PS2 was called Terminator Dawn of Fate. It was a prequel to the actual first Terminator film, and you played as Kyle Reese, and you go back and you're in the future. Well, you're in the future, but you've got to get to the mission is to get to the time travel device, like it was in the very first film before he got sent back in time.
No.
Yeah.
I haven't. No. The only Terminator games I've played are The Mega Drive games, Robocop
Oh, the
vs.
arcade game.
Terminator, and there was
quality game.
there was the Terminator on there as well. And
There was that one on the it was on the PS2 and Xbox as well. Was it Terminator? Was it the Terminator? It was Terminator 3, was it, or something like? Because I knew it was on the front cover.
I haven't played them.
Yeah.
Aside from the Mega Drive games, the only other Terminator game I played is the actual arcade, which they've got at Arcade Club. You know, the
the machine guns.
Yeah. So yeah, I haven't played.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like you say, it should have ended after the second film. That
should have 100%.
But yeah, go on, stick with you, Tim Miller.
Tim Miller, where was I? Oh yeah, so he's credited as creating it. David Fincher is one of the executive producers on it. Basically, it's an anthology show. I think there's 18 episodes in total. They're all kind of different animation styles, and they're all completely different stories. They don't really intersect with each other. There's not like an overall kind of like story arc. There's not really any kind of like, connection between them.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's not trying to be clever or anything like that. Each episode has a completely separate story. Some are set in the future, some are set in kind of the past, and some are set in space, and some are set on Earth, some are set on other planets, and I was saying I sent a message to Chris, who's on the Lord of the Rings podcast. Mm-hmm. The way I would describe it is like Black Mirror crossed with the Animatrix.
I was thinking Animatrix when you mentioned about like every episode's different.
Yeah. Some of them are better than others, but I wouldn't say that there's any bad episodes, which is quite weird.
How many episodes is there?
18.
Overall?
Yeah,
18. Have
18.
you watched them all then?
Yeah, I've watched them. Because some of them are only like a couple of minutes long, and I think the longest one's maybe about 10, 15 minutes long.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, they just tell the story that they want to tell, and then that's it, on to the next one. But some of the animation is unreal. Some of them, go for more traditional hand-drawn kind of style. Some of them are a little bit more anime. And then you've got a couple of kind of like higher budget ones, which are, CG, and you've got CG, humans in them and all this kind of stuff. Like I said, it has got a little bit of criticism from some SJW types about the portrayal of women and the females in there. I think it's a little bit unfair, just because there's, a few episodes where there's a pair of tits showing. Doesn't necessarily mean that the female characters are all helpless, and there are some episodes in there with strong female characters. One of them in particular is I don't really want to give it away, but it's a female astronaut who's kind of trapped in space. Yeah. Something goes wrong, and she has to make some pretty difficult decisions on how to survive, and sacrifices as to how she would survive. And it's something that I thought was quite, like, if it was a male character doing this, then no one would blink an eye. But the fact that it's a female character making decisions that most men would probably kind of, pull the face at and not do, it kind of, there's definitely, what I'm trying to get at, without trying to piss anyone off, is there are stories in there which have got, positive female role models, strong female role models who kind of overcome some dire circumstances, and they're left scarred, and, despite that, they are still kind of, I wouldn't go so far as to say they're strong, positive role models, because some of them employ violent means.
Right, so it's not as though it's like a Sigourney Weaver Ripley.
Yeah, there's violence in there, there's sexual elements in there, and there's very mature themes in there.
Right.
So
where you're saying this, I'm getting the Araki Saki Dojo feeling from it.
It's not quite that. It's definitely not quite that, but yeah, I think people are just having a go because there's cartoon boobs and people are seeing it as a step backwards for feminism and all this kind of shit, and I think it's a little bit unfairly leveled. Just take the stories for what they are and look beyond the adult content, and you'll probably find something that is actually quite rewarding and quite rich from a storytelling point of view, and some of them are superbly animated. So
thumbs up.
Massive thumbs up. Yeah, I definitely think it's a must watch.
Recommend.
All of them. Yeah, I mean, I quite happily sat down and watched all 18 episodes in one go.
All right, good.
So yeah.
Well, you said they're only like 5 to 15 minutes long at the episode, so it's
Some of them aren't that long at all, but they all kind of tell the story from beginning to end, and all feel about the right length. None of them overstay the welcome, and none of them feel too short. Do you know what I mean? They all kind of work really, really well.
Season 2, maybe, or anything? Any rumours of that? Or anything be left on a cliffhanger?
No, because like I say, all of the stories are kind of self-contained.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a season 2 because I'd like to see a continuation of this kind of thing. Because I do like anthology things. I do like things like Black Mirror. I did used to like stuff like The Outer Limits. Do you know what I mean? I do like those kind of anthology shows, especially when they've got kind of like a dark futuristic take.
Twilight Zone as well.
Yeah. The thing that's missing from things like Twilight Zone or The Outer Limits is there's not so much a morality tale at the end of it. It's just more of a commentary rather than a morality tale. Do you know when you'd watch an Outer Limits and there'd always be like that guy talking at the end and say talking about the folly of man and shit like that, or we need to be better, or this is the lesson you should have learned from the previous 40 minutes of the story that we've just told. Whereas this is there's a little bit more commentary going on about where the human race are likely to end up if we carry on down this particular path. But yeah, fantastic. So definitely give it a watch. If you've got Netflix, stick it on your list and get it watched as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's on my list anyway to watch.
Awesome. Right. Let's stop prattling about. This is supposed to be all about Labyrinth, which is your pick, isn't it?
My pick, yeah. So this is it's a childhood favourite film of mine, and it's still to this day. I think it's got to be on everybody's list as one of the top films. They can just throw it on any time of the day, any time of the year, whatever, and just still enjoy it. But go on, mate. You tell us when you first watched it.
First memory of seeing this was this. I always remember this as being one of those Sunday afternoon movies on BBC Two at late afternoon kind of thing, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Because I remember seeing it not long. Was it after or was it before I saw The Dark Crystal? Which is very much a companion piece to this, isn't it?
Yeah. So you didn't watch it on VHS or anything?
The first memory I have of watching this was on, like I say, a Sunday afternoon on BBC Two.
Yeah.
And not seeing the start of it. I missed the first missed like the first 15 minutes or so of it. So she was already
in the labyrinth.
In the labyrinth. Yeah, I mean, we'll just do a quick. So basically, it's a movie about a teenage girl who is forced by her stepmother and father to babysit her baby brother, which she doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
So she's a bit of a brat. She's a bit of a shit, isn't she? She's a whiny, teenager. So she wishes for the Goblin King to come and take her baby brother away, and guess what? The fucking Goblin King comes and takes her baby brother away. So in order to get her baby brother back, because she realises she's made a mistake, she has to navigate her way through the labyrinth.
Yeah, is it 13 hours to get him out?
Yeah, she's got 13
Otherwise,
hours.
he'll become one of the goblins forever.
Yeah, which is kind of a creepy concept to deal with, isn't it? It's kind of like this little toddler if you don't get him in 13 how is he's actually going to become one of these goblins that you've already seen what a goblin looks like, because you see them, looking through the mirror when Sarah's like, "Oh, I wish," and they're all like, "Oh, she's gonna say it."
Yeah.
So
well, that was. I think I mentioned it on the one of the previous episodes. I think it was where that used to scare the hell out of me. That scene, because I think you said you enjoyed it, and it scared you one bit, but that scene used to scare the hell out of me.
Yeah.
When they're hiding in a corner, like, "Shh, she's gonna say it. Say what?" and they just because you don't know what. The first time I watched it, I remember thinking, "What are they?" I knew they were goblins, but just look so creepy and stuff like that. I think that,
and they all look different, don't they? And they've all
and the voices as well. She's gonna say it, and then when they pop up and they're on the bed and they're like laughing and stuff, and she turns around and they're all hide quick under the bed and stuff. That used to scare me as well, because they were there but she couldn't see them.
So how old were you when you first saw it then?
I can't remember how old I was, but I remember renting it on VHS. It was one of the videos, I think it was. We used to rent it and then we'd take it back, and then I think we'd get it back the following weekend and rent it out again, because we just loved it that much, me and my brother. And it was the VHS as well. The cover was it wasn't like what I put on for the cover art for the show. It was the one it's like an older one where it's her in a dress and it's all white, and it showed the Labyrinth in the background. That was the old cover art on the VHS.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the poster where it's got like her in the in a white dress, and she's kind of outlined by the like a white castle, and then behind that is like David Bowie holding the ball, and then there's like a map of the labyrinth behind
That's it. I think that's the one.
Right.
Yeah, that's the one, and it was white. It was like a white background.
Yeah. That's the one.
That's the one. I remember like holding that in my hand many times over the years. I can't remember what I was. So the film was released in '86, and I was born in '81, so I was like 4 or 5 year old. So I must have been. I don't know. I reckon it was probably about 88, 89. I watched it or something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
That time.
Well, if it was on TV, then because I was still up in the northeast, so it must have been like 89, maybe 90 at a push that I saw it. If it was on BBC Two.
So we've probably seen it around about similar time, maybe.
Yeah. Because I don't remember having seen this on video. It was most definitely on terrestrial TV when I watched it. Because it wasn't. I'm pretty sure I saw this after the Dark Crystal. Yeah, because I think they were showing them kind of like one weekend, and then the next weekend it was Labyrinth, or something like that. But yeah,
the thing is, Dark Crystal was a much darker film in it to the Labyrinth.
It's more.
It's a lot more creepy, and what they call them creatures in it when
the Skeksis.
Skeksis, yeah. And they hum a lot in that.
Yeah. Well, they're just they're just skeleton fucking vultures, aren't they? So they are kind of the stuff of like young kids' nightmares, them things. But I think it's more kind of like overtly creepy, whereas this is, the creep factor is under the surface with this one a little bit more. It's still there, but it's just a little bit under the surface, because you've got
a bit more kiddie friendly in it in a way. Opposed to Dark Crystal.
Yeah. But I think like going back and revisiting the film, I think if you were to, well, I mean you have watched it, and I'll hold my hands up. I haven't got round to watching this for this episode, but I'm just kind of going off memory. But I've seen the film loads of times over the years, so I'm pretty familiar with it. But from what I recall, it's still that creep factor, that kind of there's still something very offsetting about off-putting about the film, because you've got the goblins, and you've got kind of like the Goblin King who's trying to he kidnaps a baby, and then he's trying to woo a child. You've got what are those little kind of dudes in mini armour that when you first meet Ludo's lynched.
Oh, they got him tied up.
Yeah, he's lynched up on a tree, and they've got little kind of like what look like alien chest bursters on a stick, and they're biting him. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like fucking they're torturing this poor cunt.
Is that the thing where one of them, when they're running around, and because they've got the helmets turned around and they're all hitting each other?
Yeah.
One of them swerves and he says, Then it's something like, "Hey, stop eating my pussy" or something. They bump into each other and they all fall over.
Yeah, and then you've got the kind of hag lady who's got all of like the chair and the caravan type shit on her back.
Oh, on the in
That
the junkyard.
yeah, she's freaky as well. And so there are elements of that
And the hands of helping hands.
Yeah, they're pretty freaky as well. But just because I think the creep factor's off put by all of these characters, even though they look freaky and they look kind of scary to young guys, they've all kind of like got, in a way, they've all kind of got friendly voices. Do you know what I mean? They all sound like they're off Sesame Street because, it's
Yeah.
Jim Henson kind of thing. They've all got, funny voices and
They're all a bit dopey as well, aren't they?
they're all a little bit dopey, yeah. So that kind of takes the edge off it, but there's still a creep factor there, I think. But yeah, anyway, so caught it on VHS.
Yeah, caught it on VHS. I own it now I've got the copy on Blu-ray, and it was funny though because I had the copy on Blu-ray, but for a while, for a few months, I couldn't find the Blu-ray copy. So, and my little girl wanted to watch Labyrinth, and she was like, "Well, I can't find it. I can't find the Blu-ray anywhere." So her nan went out, I think it was to Tesco, and picked up the DVD for her. So we've got the DVD as well as the Blu-ray now.
Right.
Yeah. So last night anyway, I watched the making of what's it called? Making of documentary Inside the Labyrinth last night, and also watched another little documentary called Kingdom of Characters as well on the Blu-ray, which we really enjoyed. The main documentary, the Inside the Labyrinth, that was like just over an hour long, and it was nice to see like David Bowie talking away there, discussing like the film, and Jim Henson said that on his little interview there, he said that they had a few like rock like singers in mind to do
it was.
And he was saying like he was going to be Michael Jackson or Sting or David Bowie, but he said David Bowie was always the front runner for the Goblin King.
Yeah, well, I've come across something saying that he wasn't, but it's hard to know. But I have seen some bits where it says like the when they were conceiving the story that they wanted, kind of a rock icon to be, the Goblin King. That was always, one of the main.
That was a must. Yeah.
It was always kind of like one of the central ideas as to who this person was going to be. So.
So from what Jim Henson said, that they approached him and told him the idea behind it and stuff, and if he liked the idea, read the script and stuff, would he be on board? And he read it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm up for that," and that was it. They got him on board. And
well, the thing I find interesting about that is the story is, obviously that the story is something that Jim Henson came up with. Is it Dennis Lee? He was the co-writer. But the actual screenplay for the film, which they used, was done by Terry Jones.
All right.
And if anyone out there doesn't know who Terry Jones is, he is 1/4 of Monty Python. So I think that's where the film gets a lot of its humour from, because it's very, very British in its humour, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of British humour in it. It's kind of like you got the one of the best scenes for me is the little worm that Sarah first meets.
Oh, it's brilliant! Yeah,
and he's kind of hello. And she's like, did you? She just looks at this worm. She's like, did you just say hello? And he's like, no, I said hello, but that's close enough.
Yeah, come inside and meet the missus.
Yeah, come inside and have a cup of tea.
Yeah,
and it's just. The absurdity of it, the fact that obviously this worm is saying to, a full-size human, come inside, just come in the wall and just come and sit down and have a cup of tea. Very British thing to say, but you've obviously got the absurd nature of the fact that it's a worm saying it to a human. It's just kind of...
So there was a theory, though, what I read about online a few years ago, that was the worm that planted by the Goblin King as a ploy to put her off again, because I know that he sent her the wrong way, didn't he, basically? He said if she had to go down that way, she'd gone straight to that castle. So she went the other way. But was he there as the ploy to send her the wrong way anyway?
Well, it's one of...
to come inside and meet the missus and come and have a cup of tea.
He could well have been, but, I mean, the opposite could be true. He sent her the wrong way, but because she went the wrong way, she met everyone who helps her along on the quest. She meets Hoggle, she meets Ludo, she meets Didymus, and you know it's arguable, would she have got through the labyrinth without their help?
Probably not. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she needed Ludo. She needed Ludo to help with the rock. She needed Hoggle with his courage, to help her with that big giant armor when they get to the Goblin City. And he needed Sir Didymus to obviously get through the Bog of Eternal Stench.
Yeah.
Over the bridge.
Exactly. But then, you know, you can go the other way on the argument again and say, well, if she went the opposite way, she wouldn't have, you know, been in the position where she had to cross the Bog of Eternal Stench and yada, yada, yada. So it's one of those, it's kind of, there are some theories online saying that, like, even though the wrong choices are made in the film, they turn out to be the right ones in you know, in a way.
Yeah.
It's the choice. Then she makes the wrong choices. She goes the wrong way, and this, that, and the other. Like when she's falling down the shaft of Hands.
Yeah.
They ask her, "Do you want to go up or do you want to go down?" And she's like, "I'll go down." And you know, they're all like, "She chose down," as if it's a bad thing, kind of thing. But she lands exactly where she needs to be.
With Hoggle.
Exactly. So yeah.
See, this is another thing as well that I picked up on a while back after repeated viewing and watching it. She always, when she's approached at a door or whatever, she always goes right. You know, like when she sees the worm, she goes right, doesn't she? He said down the wall, and she turns right. When she approaches the two guys, you know, with the little riddle, and she before she goes into the shaft with the hands, she picks the right door there, and when they're the knockers as well. And she picks the right door with the knockers. So there's something, she always goes through the right way.
She always going to the right, yeah.
Have you ever noticed that yourself?
I haven't until you pointed it out, but it is interesting, yeah. So...
I mean, it might not mean anything, it's just...
I don't know, because it's kind of like, there is quite a lot of layering, considering it's just kind of like this fantastical kids film. There is quite a lot of kind of subtle foreshadowing going on, because...
Well, speaking about foreshadowing, you know, at the start of the film as well, when it shows her in a bedroom there, and she's
that's what I was just about to kind of point out. It's kind of, you got the shot where you go through the bedroom, and you know, you got the shots of the books. You know, there's a Wizard of Oz book there.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, I think, is there.
Yeah, it is. And then you see like a labyrinth. She's got a little toy labyrinth.
Yeah.
And then over by her. A wardrobe in one of the cupboards, she's actually got a little fox plushy toy type thing that looks like Sir Didymus. On a vanity table, she's got
fire creature. She's got one of them sat on her bed.
Yeah, she's got. There's a model of Jareth.
There's a picture of David Bowie pinned up on a mirror as well.
There's several pictures of David Bowie now. She's obviously infatuated with someone who looks like David Bowie. You know. She obviously fantasizes about, you know, a romance with someone who looks like whoever, you know, those pictures are meant to be. So, you know... There's
an owl in the background as well. And I think she's got a shelf as well, which is across from where a dressing table is. I think it's on the other side of the wall or the side of the room. There's a few little bits on the shelf there, and one of them, I only noticed it last night when I watched it. She's got a Judge Dredd. I think it was like Judge Dredd VHS tape.
Oh, really?
Side on, yellow, red writing Judge Dredd on it.
Interesting. Well, I didn't see Judge Dredd pop up in the film at any point, so... Because that's the argument, isn't it? It's kind of like, you know, obviously the film could be taken two ways. It can be taken as, this is a child who's wanting to escape her reality, and regresses into her own mind, and you know, this is all taking place in her mind, you know, because she's sat at home babysitting, and is just kind of like entertaining this fantasy within her brain, to kind of escape what she sees as an injustice of being forced to babysit her baby brother. So, you know, it could all just be taking place, you know, in a mind.
In a mind. Yeah, or, like a Quaid from Total Recall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, mate. There we go. That's a nice callback to the Total Recall episode there. Nice one.
I tried to work that in then.
Yeah.
But you know when she's on the bed, when she gets back and they say, "Oh, you're going to babysit your brother Toby," and she's like, "Oh, so leave me alone," and stuff like that, and she goes up to her room. chances are she's probably got an event and fell asleep, hasn't she?
Possibly.
And do you know what I mean? And walk up or whatever, and then her mum and dad have got a mum and a dad and a stepmom have got back and like, oh, we're home now, and she just kind of woke up from the dream of the labyrinth. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so there's kind of, you know, you could go either way, or you can just read the movie as for what it is, and, you know, these goblins are, you know, obviously real and come and kidnap her a baby brother.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are a few to the film, and it's kind of entertaining to watch on either level, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. I mean, how old was Jennifer Connelly in this? Was she 16? Because on the making of last night, David Bowie said she was 14, and he said she was one of an actress at that age, and he said she's 14. And I was trying to put it together, thinking, well, they must have shot the film because she was born in 1970. Looked it up earlier on. She was born in 1970, and the film was released in 86, so that would make her 16 upon release of the film. But if they were filming it for maybe 2 years beforehand, she could have been 14.
Oh, I don't think it would have been a 2 year. Well, it could have been. I can't see it being a 2 year shoot. But yeah, she's probably around about that age. Yeah. Maybe you first met her at auditions when she was like 14 or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I never thought about that, actually.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's kind of that's a creepy. We might as well get into that now. I mean, obviously she's like a teenage girl, and she's, you know, obviously in the UK the age of consent over here is 16, and I would say she's meant to be about between 14 and 16, maybe in the film.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, I think a few years back I thought she was about 16, 17-ish. But yeah, she's around that age, isn't she?
Yeah, well, I would say that she skews on the younger side, because the opening of the film is like her, you know, doing this role play in the park kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, again, you know, this fantasy kind of make-believe games that she's playing with herself on her own, kind of in the middle of nowhere, which is weird.
It's that though, why just on the opening scene there as well, when she's doing the rehearsing, is, you know, when she runs home in the rain, the part where she's running home, it reminds me, it has a look of the houses from the Goonies. I'm not sure whether or not it was.
I don't think so, because I think it was shot in England.
Oh, yeah.
So,
but it's just that scene when she's running that reminds me of the Goonies.
Yeah, I mean, watching this film now, it kind of there's a lot of things that kind of remind me of other films, just from that kind of era. It's kind of the look of the film reminds me in a way of Legend, the Ridley Scott fantasy film.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably down to the fact that the cinematographer on this film is the same as the cinematographer on Legend.
Yeah. When was Legend? Was that after this?
No, I think it was before. I want to say 84, 85.
Yeah.
Without cheating and looking. Oh, fuck it, I'm going to look.
That's another cracking film anyway. I know
go.
We mentioned it a while back, didn't we? That we said that it didn't do well at the cinemas of Legend. But I think if anything, that's got a bit of a cult following now.
Yeah. 1985, so yeah, there you go. I believe they were shot pretty close together, so, because when I was reading a few things for the film, it said that the kind of cast and crew kind of intermingled between each other. And when you look at Legend, you can completely kind of understand if some of the little people or dwarfs who were used to be the goblins in this were probably, you know, jobbing next door on Legend as well, because that used, you know, little folks in, you know, goblin costumes and elf costumes and all that kind of shit as well. I'm just looking here, actually. Alex Thompson was also the cinematographer on Excalibur and Demolition Man. So there's another callback to one of our other podcasts. Yeah. He was also director of photography on Alien 3. Leviathan, the horror film with Peter Weller.
I've mentioned that a few times to you, Mike, but I'm not sure you've watched it.
He worked on Raw Deal, The Keep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he's done some good work.
Yeah.
So that, and for some reason, the opening music reminds me of Top Gun. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's just got kind of got that down wow 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 about it, even though it's more kind of
Oh,
fantasy
the
kind
opening
of thing.
credits when the I was
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's one of them.
I've just got the opening scene on again now because I've got it on in the background of the film and I've just rewound. You know the part where she's in the bedroom, we're trying to pick up little bits, like what's in her bedroom, what's surrounding her. The books, she's got Alice in Wonderland there.
Yeah.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, what you said before, Wizard of Oz. She's got like a little wooden game, like a labyrinth game, is it?
Yeah, there's a little
like a marble madness game.
yeah.
I'm just having a look now. She's got Hoggle. There's like a statue of Hoggle, like a bookend, like a bookended Hoggle for her books. And then she's got a notebook open as well, and you've got the picture of David Bowie with it could be Jennifer Connelly herself there because she looks like she's got her friends on the picture as well. And it says
isn't one of the books when it goes over the books? Isn't one of the books like the Brothers Grimm fairy tales as well?
Yeah. And you got a picture of Robin Hood there from the Disney Robin Hood. You got a statue of Jareth, the Goblin King.
Yeah.
On a dressing table. You've got a picture of David Bowie hugging. It looks like Jennifer Connelly maybe on a dressing table.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a screenshot of that.
Then in the background you've got
that scrapbook that you mentioned in there. And it looks like because there's a big picture of a girl in that scrapbook which is outlined, and that's supposed to be a mum. So I'm assuming that
her mum was in theatre or something.
Well, her mum was in theatre, but I'm assuming because underneath it says Linda Williams, which is her mum's name, because she's called Sarah Williams. I'm assuming that the guy that her mum has ran off with is David Bowie.
Yeah, you could be.
Because underneath it says on-off relationship or something like that. And it's the picture of David Bowie with her mum. So that'll explain why... Oh, that's kind of twisted, isn't it, then?
Never thought about that.
In it, that's twisted. So that's her mum in the scrapbook. Her mum's an actress, and she's gone off shagging David Bowie, who in this world is an actor, stage actor. And she's left her father for him. But she's got a crush on the guy that her mum's gone off shagging.
Yeah.
Oh, that's twist. That's even more.
Strange.
Yeah. That's bringing another layer of depravity into this film, because we've not even touched on, David Bowie trying to woo a 14, 15-year-old girl yet, have we? So.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. That dance scene as well later on. It just stuck in with the bedroom as well. Now in the background when she's putting her makeup on, putting her lipstick on, you can just see the poster of the the Labyrinth rat at the end where she saves Toby, when it's all like kind of like the steps are going up and she
like the Penrose stairs and all that.
Yeah,
kind of stuff,
there's a picture of that in the background.
Right.
There's a is that Mickey Mouse in the background there? I can't tell because of one of the pictures in the way. Right, yeah, right. I've just freezed it on the Judge Dredd VHS tape on the shelf at the back there, next to a couple of books.
Right.
There's another character on the right hand side as well. What was that, Ludo maybe? Because he's got the teeth. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, if anyone who is listening to the podcast owns a copy of the Blu-ray version, go and freeze frame it and see how many references you can spot in the background in Sarah's bedroom.
I'm surprised Kermit the Frog's not sat there or something like that.
Probably is somewhere, mate. But yeah, that is... there's
a picture of cats as well. Is it a show? Cats.
Maybe
a
mum's binning cats or something like that. So, so there you go. We already knew that the film was a little bit creepy because you've got, a grown man in the guise of David Bowie perving on Sarah, but it turns out in the real world, Sarah's mum's ran off with David Bowie, and Sarah herself has actually got a crush on David Bowie. So
Have you just thought of that about that now, Mike?
I have just literally just freeze. I've gone to the scene that you were talking about, and I freeze framed it because if you go back to Sarah's scrapbook, it, like I say, it's got the playbill with Sarah's mum, and I'm assuming it's her mum because at the side of it in like red lipstick it says mom with hearts next to it. So
yeah. And there's a newspaper article which ripped as well next to the picture of David Bowie and maybe her mum.
Yeah.
Did you see that one? The headline's ripped off a little bit.
Yeah, I think it says on-off relationship. So
right.
Yeah, or something along those lines. Yeah.
Well, there you go, listeners. We found something new out every day.
Yeah, we've found a new layer of depravity to this film. I mean, the fact that you've got an older person trying to seduce or even at one point force Sarah. I think the term is gaslighting. I'd never heard that before until.
Till now.
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
Gaslighting, because he says, "Be my slave," and all this kind. I'll be your slave if you love me.
Was that right at the end in it? Yeah, when he's saying to
something like that. So basically, he's trying to brainwash her into fucking him at the end of the day. And when you know that this film could have featured Michael Jackson in the lead role, that brings a whole new dynamic to it as well, doesn't it?
I never even thought about that now. So no, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, thank God David Bowie got the part.
Yeah, thank God. Because it definitely wouldn't have been a child classic or a childhood favourite after, the revelations that came about Jacko.
Well, can you imagine it with Jimmy Savile?
I don't think he was on the cast. I don't think he was on the shortlist, but yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's exactly what. Yeah, fucking hell. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this podcast went off the rails, didn't it? Okay.
Where can we go from there, Mike?
I have no idea. Let's try and get it back on track. So,
what I noticed was, where Dad is looking at her Dad, thinking, I recognise him from something anyway, and it's been on my mind for a while now, but I never really looked it up online to see what he's been in. But when I looked it up last night, he was in Star Wars. I think it was episode. Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. I'm not sure which one it is, but
wasn't he one of the pilots? Yeah.
I think didn't he pick Luke up Empire Strikes Back when he's like, I found him when he's in this it was Harrison Ford Solo.
In one of the speeder things when he's freezing in Hoth.
Yeah, I think it's him.
Could be.
Chris Manning would know if he was here. He's up in Star Wars.
I know. Maybe you can let us know in the comments. It's not a massive cast at the end of the day, is it? I mean, the film is basically her and Bowie, along with like a load of goblins and stuff like that.
I don't recognise her stepmom from being in anything else. I'm not sure if you picked up on anything with her.
No, not so much. I haven't really gone into the cast too much.
I looked at it last night anyway, but I didn't recognise her anyway. But Warwick Davis was in this as well. He played one of the goblins.
Yeah, I saw that as well. And Frank Oz, who played Yoda, he was the wise man. He did the puppeteering for the wise man.
Yeah.
The baby who plays her brother Toby is actually the son of Brian Froud, who is like the conceptual artist on the film, who came up with the look and the idea of the story with Jim Henson.
On the documentary last night, he mentioned that he was drawing the goblins and drawing this baby, and his wife was expecting at the time. And anyway, when she finally gave birth, the baby looked a lot like the pictures that he'd been drawing with the goblins.
Yeah, I remember that bit on the document. Did it though? Because babies look like babies, don't they? It's kind of I think he was reaching with that one.
Yeah, for sure. But on the documentary, David Bowie was saying that when he sings the Dance Magic Dance, and the scenes in that where the baby's supposed to the camera cuts to the baby and he goes goo goo or whatever, gaga.
Yeah, he couldn't do
it, would he? The baby would not do it at all.
Yeah.
So he had to do the the baby noises himself, David Bowie. I'm not sure whether or not he did it on the movie version or if it was on the actual.
Well, I think the movie version is essentially just the song played in the movie, because
right.
if you there's part of the documentary where it shows him actually lip syncing while they're filming it. And essentially, when they're filming it, they're playing the music on the speakers, so he knows when to cue himself, and he just basically mimes in time to the song.
I think the one on the soundtrack is I'm sure it's longer than what they play in the movie.
Yeah. Well, that's just because there's an intro and stuff on there, isn't there? So,
yeah.
Which is kind of like that song is obviously the centerpiece to the movie, really, isn't it? It's one of the most recognizable elements of the film, that Dance Magic Dance. And one of the things that I noticed or came across when I was doing the research for it is like the opening lyrics, where Bowie's like, "You remind me of the babe. What babe? The babe with power of voodoo. Who do you do? What remind me of the babe?" That is taken from a Cary Grant film from the 50s.
All right.
Yeah. I can't remember. I think the babe and the... I can't remember the name of the film without Googling it now. But it's the line in that Cary Grant says, "You remind me of the man." And it's like, what man? And it's the who do, you do. It's kind of like it's a running joke in that film. So essentially it's been repurposed. Bowie must have seen that film and liked that line for some reason. And he's
used it in the song.
Yeah, he's repurposed it in the song. So that is a direct reference to the Cary Grant film from the... I'm going to have to Google it now, sorry.
Well, to be honest with you, it works in the movie anyway. It works for the song and it works for the movie.
Yeah, because, it's so catchy, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's such an earworm, that song.
I think that scene, though, with the Dance Magic Dance, when he's dancing with the goblins there in the movie, I think it was something like I think it was 54 puppeteers were used for that scene.
Yeah. There's like 50 puppets in there, and
they're all like they were crammed in little holes and in the walls and stuff like that with a puppet in front of them, and they've got like they've got like a microphone there and they're doing the voices.
Yeah, which is something that you don't necessarily think of when you're watching a film with puppets, but those puppets have to be operated, and sometimes those puppets have to be operated by more than one person. So in order to accommodate having all of these puppeteers around, they have to be hidden around the sets. So for that scene in particular, you've got the set, which is built, raised up like a stage almost, and then you've got all of these holes where the puppeteers can actually reach through and manipulate, the puppets that they're going to be performing with. But it's just so well done. That's why if you go back and you watch the film, you'll notice a lot of them are just kind of like sat in little alcoves and, not moving too much. But then you've got the full body performers, which are the little people in, the full costumes. They're dancing around David Bowie and stuff like that.
Yeah, picking Tory up, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's one of the ways that they get around kind of like, being relatively static with the puppets. There's lots of movement in the foreground. Like you've got to think, what's that little thing that kind of dangles in frame? There's something that kind of hovers and flies around, and then Bowie boots a fucking goblin up the arse, so it flies up in the frame of the cat. So it's just there's a sense of movement which is kind of masking the fact that all of these puppets are literally just kind of sat on steps or little alcoves, because they have to have 50 people crammed underneath that tiny stage to manipulate all of these puppets. It's weird. As we've just been waffling there, the Cary Grant movie is called
go on.
The Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer.
Oh.
Yes. So if anyone...
Can't say I've heard of that before, mate.
Well, it's from...
what year is this?
1947.
Oh.
Yes.
So obviously David Bowie's watched that, hasn't he?
I would think so, yeah. I'm going to try and find the line. Anyway. Yeah, but the magic dance scene, it's, you know, one of the standout. It comes pretty early on in the film as well, doesn't it? So it's...
Yeah, I remember when I rebought this. I think it was going back now to like early 2000s. I bought it on VHS. I went to H&B at Trafford Centre, and I think I've only just been working. I've only been working maybe. I started working in '98, so I've been working a few years, 2 years or something like that. So I was getting my own wages through and stuff like that. And I used to go up to the Trafford Centre and just start buying up VHS tapes. And I remember buying a lot of Friday the 13th tapes from H&B. And I remember picking up the Labyrinth, and it had been years since I watched it. And I remember watching the first time I watched my Magic Dance, that scene, it just took me back to when I was a kid and I watched it on VHS, rented it.
Yeah.
So I can't believe it's been that many years since I watched this. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so it's... You remind me of the man. What man? The man with the power. What power? The power of voodoo. You do?
Do what?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do, you do. Do what? Remind me of the man. And it comes up a couple of times in the course of the film. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on. It's the last time I'll reference that.
You kind of like speedrunning that then, though, Mike, when you said it.
Yeah, well, it's one of those. Once it's in your brain, it's stuck in there. It's weird because have you ever noticed as well, like in the magic dance scene, all the goblins, like their lights, their eyes kind of light up red. Have you noticed that? Like the retinas kind of like I feel like I'm watching fucking Blade Runner, you know, with all the retinas kind of like lighting up. Either that or they're all Terminators. Yeah, you just like burn the skin off them and they're all little.
They could be all Supermen.
yeah, could be. Yeah.
X-ray vision.
Well, that one that gets a boot up the arse. Yeah, there's a flying kind of goblin chicken that comes through, and then there's a little bird in a net in the window. So there's a goblin that's got a bird, like an actual bird in the net.
There's a few chickens in the whole film, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, in the scenes where it's just the chicken walking around.
Yeah. It is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's the one thing about, like, all of the goblins and all of the puppets have kind of like even though they're not on screen very long individually, they've all got kind of like
own character, haven't they?
They've all got their own personality, haven't they?
Yeah.
They all look completely different, and they've all got these fun voices, and, you know, they all sound like, you know, Muppets and kind of friendly in a way, which is kind of disarming.
But it's same with every character she meets in it, like you mentioned before, the worm, and then when she meets Hoggle for the first time and he's taking a piss in that water. And he's trying to kill all the little furries.
And then tries to kill a furry. One of my favourite characters is the little guy that crawls out. Like when Sarah's trying to get through the labyrinth, she draws on like the flagstones with a piece of lipstick.
The little guys who get up.
And the little guy's kind of like, "You just drawn on my fucking roof. What are you doing, you bitch?"
Yeah, so waving his fist at her kind of thing.
Yeah, you're drawing the fraggedy waka walk or whatever he says. It's just kind of...
he starts his own little language, doesn't he? So it could be swearing for all we know.
Well, I think he said, if you put the subtitles on, it says fragging. Fragging. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know that's substituting something else. But... it's just that goes back to the kind of like the humour that's in the film, that very Monty Python-esque humour. Yeah,
and do you know the scene with the worm as well? When she's talking to the worm there on the wall, and do you see them eyes at the side of her?
Yeah, Bowie's face is hidden all the way through the film, isn't it? In like the trees and in the walls and stuff like that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there's loads of scenes, like if you go back and freeze frame it, I think there's like 8 different places where David Bowie's face is actually hidden in plain view. Yeah, so it's like it's in the cave.
Still curving her when she's not on screen.
Well, I think that's why it's meant to be there. It's kind of like, even though she's like in the labyrinth, he's always kind of got his gaze on her. Yeah, so she can't get away from him. Because as Dean from Junk Cancel points out, he is a bit of a tricky bastard, isn't he? So
yeah, Mr. Bowie, tricky bastard.
Tricky bastard. Oh my word.
Yeah, but the eyes, what are on the wall there next to the worm, I think the eyes start turning to look at Sarah, and then you start going.
Oh, I thought you. I know what you mean. Like the eyes that are in the moss.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they make a noise when their eyes are turning like. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just so much going on, isn't there?
This is the good thing. This is because I mentioned Labyrinth a while back to you about like, yeah, we should do an episode because I think we touched on it. Like what I've been watching or something. I said I've been watching the Labyrinth with a little girl. You went, oh, classic film, and we mentioned it for like about 5 minutes, and I thought we could do a good episode with this. Yeah. It's still a classic film, you know what I mean? And we're still going to cover it anyway. But because we mentioned it briefly, I thought we could do a good episode of this.
Well, there's. I mean, I like the film, but there's one part of the film that I don't really like, and I never liked.
That dance scene.
The one with the fire people.
That.
I've never
the
liked
Chili Down. Chili Down, yeah.
Yeah, I don't. No, never
I
liked
like that. I like that. See, for me growing up, it was always the dance scene with David Bowie and that. It was all humans in it dressed as goblins with masks on and stuff. I used to always see that scene on when I was a kid, always. But when I've got older now, that scene, well, the song in that scene is probably one of the best songs in the whole film because it's so catchy.
No,
like the other ones, yeah. I think it's. Maybe with age, I think I've matured and I enjoy that scene more than what I did as a kid.
Yeah, well, more power to you, mate. But I've never liked that scene. No,
yeah.
they're just where they're taking the fucking heads off and kicking them around like footballs and.
No. All right, yeah. That's the scene you don't like, the Chili Down scene.
Yeah.
See,
I've never minded the masquerade bit because it's kind of like it's back to the story. But I've never understood the bit with like the fire dance. You know. I didn't think it was a catchy song. I thought it was crap. I thought the special effects were not up to it because didn't they have to have like...
Well, when it filmed in like...
They had to obviously do it like green screen, but you know all of the like puppeteers were dressed in like black velvet.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so they couldn't be picked up in camera because like the black velvet absorbed the light. So you know essentially it was easy to kind of like remove them out of the image, but even so, like the matte lines on the like on the puppets, because they're kind of fuzzy, you know, the matte lines are big and thick and chunky, and it's it never looked right to me. And that on top of that, with that particular song, it never really.
Well, I think they were trying probably a bit too much for that scene. That I like the scene. I've always liked that scene. But I remember when I said I bought it back in the early 2000s from HMV, the video, and on the VHS tape copy, that it was so bad, that scene, you know. You could see the lines, like they were so obvious, it was just a standout. But I think they must have cleaned them up a little bit on Blu-ray because you can see them a little bit, but they're not too bad. But that VHS copy I had back then, God, it was shocking. Yeah. If it was
VHS, then obviously it would have been cropped to like 4:3, wouldn't it, for the TV? So
you could basically see the people dressed up.
Right.
Like,
okay.
It was that bad.
Yeah, it's like I always remember. There was one time they showed Predator on ITV, and it was one of the rare times that they showed it uncut.
You on about the scene with his arm?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if it's in 4:3, essentially what they did with that, instead of just cutting, you know, the periphery, whatever it is, like 25% off, like from widescreen TV, if you picture it from going from a rectangle down to a square, they would literally just like cut the sides off and then like blow up the middle image. So it would make it kind of like a little bit fuzzier, probably in the case of what they did with Labyrinth. They would literally just lop off the sides and then make the remaining 4:3 centre part like bigger, so it filled the screen kind of thing. But with Predator, what they actually did was they opened the matte, and when I say open the matte, what that basically means is the black bars that normally appear above and below a film when it's shot in like the widescreen aspect.
Yeah.
That is called closed matte. But when you open the matte out, you've got the image what would fill the black bars, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when they did that for TV back in the day, they opened the matte out, and what you could see was when Dylan gets his arm cut off by the Predator, you could see obviously the prosthetic arm with all the blood kind of pouring out and stuff like that. But because they opened up the black bars, because it was the TV version, you could also see his forearm was stuffed down the back of his shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Saw that.
if the black bars were there, you wouldn't have seen it because that's how the movie was cropped, intentionally cropped. But because, you know, it was a TV broadcast, you could see his fucking arm just kind of stuffed out. It's like, hang on a minute, what's going on
Yeah,
there? So that's probably why you saw the guys in the black velvet moving
yeah, it
about
could be.
on the
Yeah,
VHS, because obviously if they're blowing the image up, instead of opening the mat, if they're blowing the image up, then it would essentially just make everything larger and a little bit blurrier. So any kind of like, you know, movement and vision and stuff like that, you would be able to see them moving behind the puppets. But yeah, I
I mean, either
never
way, it
got,
was bad.
yeah, I never got on with it. I still think it hurts my eyes to watch it now, but I've always had a thing about matte lines. Matte lines kind of bug me in films, especially when they're big, like thick, chunky black matte lines.
Yeah, I mean, if you take that scene out of it, out, because I think they were probably pushing the envelope a little bit there.
Yeah,
To be
probably.
fair, for that time, 1986. If you take that scene out of it, the film. Well, I mean, the film holds up well anyway as it is. But take that scene out of it, and you can't really pick anything else, can you? Really, what's bad about the film?
No. I think the rest of the film holds up.
Petrified.
That was another thing that kind of bugged me about that scene. It just didn't add anything to the story. Like, she's meeting these. So she meets Ludo, she meets Hoggle, and she meets Sir Didymus, and like they all kind of come along with her and help her on a quest. But then to introduce those characters so late in the film, and they don't add anything to the story. It's just another scene for the sake of another scene. You know, it doesn't progress the story. They don't kind of. They only pose like a mild threat, don't they? They try pulling her head off or something
Head off, and
like
she
that,
runs
yeah.
off, doesn't she? And then the
Yeah.
the
So,
headset.
but
For
I mean, you could easily cut that out, and it would have no bearing on the story whatsoever. It made no difference. So
yeah, well, Hoggle saves her, didn't he, from them? And he throw the rope down to her, and she's like, "Help!" And he's
yeah,
like, grab it," and he throws the rope down, and he pulls her up, and then next thing you know, don't the Goblin King said to her, "If she kisses you, I'll turn you into a prince of the land of stench." She goes to kiss him, and he's like, "Don't kiss me, don't kiss me." And then they end up falling, don't they, into the bog of eternal stench, basically, and he's hanging on
yeah.
off that cliff.
Because I mean,
So
that's one of the other kind of aspects of the film. When you're looking at the characters and the characters that she meets as well, they're all kind of. You could say that they're all kind of qualities that she needs to learn or accept or embrace as going from like the process of going from like a teenager to becoming an adult. Because like.
correct, yeah.
You know, she obviously feels lonely. So Ludo, when she meets Ludo, he always Sarah friend, you know, all that kind of. So he obviously represents a friend that she feels that she needs.
Yeah, yeah.
Hoggle, even though he's kind of two-faced and kind of betrays her in a way, in the film, he ultimately redeems himself and is actually quite brave. He overcomes his fear of, because he's the reason he betrays Sarah is because he's scared of Bowie, you know.
Yeah, he's got to hold him, and he's got to hold on him.
Yeah,
The Goblin King.
yeah, but because Sarah shows him kindness and she gives him a gift, which is just a plastic bracelet or something, he, you know, he feels bad, he feels remorse, so he ultimately redeems himself by overcoming his fear of Jareth and actually rescuing Sarah again. So, you know, that's the bravery aspect of her character that she obviously feels she needs.
Didymus.
Well, maybe Sir Didymus is actually the bravery, because he's always kind of like going into battle, isn't he? He's just kind of like, charge!
Charge, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's his dog in it who's just not brave.
Yeah, which is, that's another thing that obviously carries over from the real world into it as well, isn't it? It's the dog that he rides like his steed
Noble
is
steed.
is the
Ambrosius.
it's the sheepdog that she has, you know, in the real world. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think they're meant to represent kind of like facets of her character that she, you know, is kind of like learning or accepting, you know, in a transition from, because it is one of those kind of coming of age stories, isn't it? She's kind of like a teenager trying to find her way and become a little bit more grown up.
Yeah, that's the thing, because she's in her mid-teens, and
Yeah.
obviously approaching basically adulthood, isn't she, in a way?
Yeah, and it's one of those. It's kind of like giving up your childhood. Doesn't necessarily mean leaving behind your childhood or elements of your childhood. You can become an adult without, forgetting your past, kind of thing, without, giving up your innocence. Because I think that's what happens at the end of the film, isn't it? It's kind of once she's got Toby back and she's, said to Bowie, like, what does she say? You've got no power over me, or something like that.
Yeah, right at the end. Yeah, that's the end of the line, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very like Nancy-esque to Freddy Krueger at the end of Nightmare on Elm Street, isn't it? So it's kind of like, you hold no power over me, kind of thing, and she's kind of leaving him behind, and then she's saying goodbye to kind of like Ludo and Hoggle, and then at the very end of the film, they're just kind of like, well, just remember, if you ever need us,
should you need us,
we're here for you. And then she turns around and they're all there, and even the goblins are there, and they all jump on the bed and hug and embrace, and kind of like, it's just this uplifting moment. Like, she realizes that she can still take them with her, even though she's moving.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so
even though she's moving forward in life, she's getting older still.
So it's kind of it's weird because it's kind of like it's a happy ending in a way, but it feels a little bit bittersweet. Because
it's like with a teddy bear, isn't it? Because at the start of the film, she got that teddy bear. Is it Lancelot? She's like, somebody's been married him again, and Toby's got Lancelot. They're obviously like a dad or a stepmom's give him to Toby.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the film, she's giving Lancelot to Toby.
Yeah, yeah. So she's leaving behind her selfish ways as well, because she is a bit of a spoiled brat when we first meet her, isn't she? So yeah.
So, sticking with Hoggle though, Mike, as well. Hoggle was played by a female.
It was, and 4 puppeteers, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, to do the face, the features, and the face.
Yeah.
The mouth and everything. Yeah, eyebrows and everything. All that move.
Yeah. So just kind of it goes back to what we were saying about like the puppeteering aspect of making something like this. It's kind of one puppet might not necessarily just be operated by one person. Yeah. So in this instance, Hoggle, who is obviously quite a complex character because you've got a person in the costume, and then they've got the helmet on, which is essentially the Hoggle head, but they've got no control over the head. They've only got movement over the control over the body movements, their own kind of like limbs and stuff like that, but they've got absolutely no control about the head. So if she turns her head left or right, and she's meant to be looking the opposite direction, and their eyes are kind of pointing in the wrong direction, it just, it must have been so complicated to actually do all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it must have been frustrating as well, though, at first to get used to it, because nobody's like talking, because there's many scenes where he's talking to David Bowie and the Goblin King, and he's stood there in front of him to have the eyes looking right at David Bowie, and also have his head facing the same way, and the hand motions going the same way.
Yeah.
Just get all them to come together.
I mean, I have just put the movie on in the background, and that's one thing that kind of strikes me about like the Hoggle character in particular. It's kind of when he is interacting with other characters, David Bowie or Sarah or whoever. There's if you just watch the eye movements, it's kind of, there's some very subtle kind of like eye shifts going on there, and it feels very real and because like when you're watching someone who acts, particularly with their eyes, they'll just do a slight shift to the left or shift to the right, and that eye movement can convey a thought or an emotion, or and they're able to actually.
He can do it with he can do it as well, Hoggle.
Yeah, and they've somehow managed to do that with these kind of like animatronics and puppets, which is, it lends a sense of kind of like realism to these characters and brings them to life in a way that I don't think you don't see very often in films with puppets. They're quite dead-eyed and all this kind of stuff, but with I don't know how they've managed to do it, but they make them feel alive, and I think it's through the eye movements of like characters like Hoggle and Ludo and Didymus and stuff like that. Even though they've got very expressive faces anyway, if you just next time you watch the film, just look at what's going on with the eyes and the movement of the eyes with the creatures. It's fascinating, like how they're able to get so much personality and like feeling and emotion into something that is essentially just, wires, rods, and switches and levers. It's
Yeah, correct.
It's weird. So
another scene as well, though, was when I found this out a few years ago as well, and I was amazed when I found out because you didn't expect it, or I never picked up on it as well from all the years of watching it. But the scenes with David Bowie when he stood there and he's got his
I know
crystal
where you're going
balls,
with this. Yeah,
he's got his crystal balls and he's spinning them. I've later found out that it's not his hand, that his hand what's there spinning the balls. He's got guy behind him, who's like a magician behind, spinning them on his fingers, and the guy was stood behind David Bowie, crouched down, having to basically spin the crystal balls in his fingers, doing it like basically like blind because he couldn't see what he was doing. He just had to just do it. And
there's quite a bit of stuff on the documentary, just like the footage of him just lay on the floor with his eyes shut, just kind of like manipulating these crystal balls in his hands and kind of juggling them in a way.
Yeah. But I tell you something that I didn't. I was so shocked when I found that out because I didn't. I thought David Bowie must be doing that somehow. I expect another guy behind with his arm stuck.
Yeah, with his arm stuck underneath his armpit and just doing it that way.
You can't even see.
Yeah. It's so well done. It is so well done because again they've just kind of like hidden him behind like selective camera angles, and it's literally just a guy sticking his arm through underneath David Bowie's armpit, and he's manipulating these balls, which is not even getting into the symbolism of that, but
yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of, and it's such fluid movements with the kind of like the hands and stuff because he kind of swishes the ball from one hand to another, and then there's other scenes where he's got kind of like 3 balls going round, and then he's got another one on top of those, and he's just kind of like like medicine balls, Chinese medicine balls, so you just spin them around in your hand, but he's doing them with huge glass balls, and it's just.
But he can't see he's doing it at the same time.
Can't see it, no. So and again on the documentary, I remember there's kind of like footage of like him dropping the balls and Bowie pissing himself and stuff, and just kind of like having fun with it, and because he must have like had to stand there for hours upon hours until that guy got it right. Even though he's obviously very high level and highly skilled with his manipulation of. His fingers and his digits and stuff. I bet his missus is very happy. But it's it must have taken ages to actually get some of those shots right. So
yeah, which you said on the documentary, it showed the footage where I think David Bowie was stood there and he's crouched down behind him with his arm sticking out of the balls, and Jim Henson just said, right, like call it kind of thing, let's go, like whatever it take, and you start filming it, and then he just drops one of the balls on the floor, and it's like, okay, cut. And then David Bowie's laughing about it, and then it's like, right, okay, I've set it up again, let's go again, and he drops it again. It showed it numerous times, like 4 or 5 times, when he kept dropping it. And David Bowie was just, he must have got to a point where he was like, right, how can I be serious now with this? Every time I'd say, where can we start filming it, and then he drops it again. Because it must have been so frustrating for both of them, really.
Yeah, he's a guy called Michael Motion.
Yeah, that's him, yeah.
Yeah, so he was a classmate of Penn Jillette at high school. Yeah, and he has performed in Cirque du Soleil. So, yeah, there you go. One of the things that I came across with the documentary, and it's always kind of stuck with me, is I don't know if you picked up on it, but there's a woman who is like the one of the directors of the choreography for all of the puppeteers and stuff. Who is quite recognisable if you are fans of a certain science fiction TV show. But she's credited under a different name when she works for Jim Henson.
She was in the the scene with the masks and stuff like that when it's all the humans dancing with David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I said I used to skip fast forward when I was a kid, but never quite enjoyed that scene. She was in that as well. She was
Oh,
one
was
of the
she? Right. Okay.
dancers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think,
So yeah. Breaking the suspense instead of burying the lead. They'll know her as Dr. Beverly Crusher from Star Trek: The Next Generation, Gates McFadden, but she's credited as Cheryl McFadden on this because that's her first name. So she uses that as her professional name when she's doing kind of like the choreography side of things, and then when she's doing the acting, she credits herself as Gates McFadden. But yeah, it's just weird to see, Dr. Crusher pop up as, a puppet coordinator or choreographer or whatever she's credited as on this film, especially when she was such a kind of like known in
Star Trek.
yeah, well known for being
Star
in
Trek was
Star
after this, though, wasn't it? Was it 1990? Late 80s.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
Next
one of them.
Generation.
I wouldn't have seen her until the DVD came out with the documentary, so I already knew her from Star Trek, and
Yeah.
it was years down the line where I was kind of like, hang on a minute, I recognise her. Why is she called Cheryl? And then you look into it and you realise it's the same person, and that's what she was predominantly known for before she got the gig on Star Trek: The Next
Star Trek.
Generation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So weird like that. Fun little
Mm.
facts like that. So, yeah.
Got any more little facts there, Mike?
No, I'm coming to the end of my little list.
I'm just trying to think if I got any more. I think I might have covered what I had to cover. Right, okay. So we'll get into. You want me to mention about Storyteller?
If you must, because
Yeah.
I've got nothing to say on this because I'm vaguely aware of it. Yeah, vaguely aware of it, but I don't remember much about it whatsoever. I know John Hurt's in it, and that's about it. So
yeah, he's a storyteller. Yeah. So basically, the Storyteller is some of the Jim Henson production, like film from I think it's after Labyrinth, so I think it's from 87, maybe 87 to 89 or something like that. Season 1 spanned for 9 episodes. There was a season 2, but it was only 4 episodes. I've never seen that, and I think it's got mixed reviews. And John Hurt who plays a storyteller doesn't return for the season 2.
All right. So who's in season 2 then, other than
Season 2? It's the guy who plays Dumbledore, not in Harry Potter, not the original actor who passed away. The guy
Michael Gambon.
Yeah, I think it's him.
It was Richard Harris who played him in the first
two.
Yeah, and then it was Gambon after that.
That's it. Yeah, it's Gambon who replaced John Hurt for season 2. Well, yeah. So its first season is 9 episodes, and each episode they're like old folk tales, if you like. The storyteller sits down with his little dog there. His dog is his puppet, like the goblins in Labyrinth, but it's voiced by Brian Henson, Jim Henson's son.
Yeah.
Who voiced
he voiced Hoggle. Yeah.
He voiced Hoggle, and he voiced a few. I think he voiced a few of the other goblins as well in the Labyrinth. So basically, the storyteller sits down every episode and he tells like a story, different story for each episode, with his dog, and there's like puppets in it, and it's really good. I mean, every episode's different. So if you're a fan of Labyrinth and you're a fan of Dark Crystal, highly recommend go and check out Storyteller. John Hurt's really good as a storyteller. You've also got other known actors and actresses in there. You've got Julia Richardson from Event Horizon. You'll know him, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah, and you've got the guy, I can't remember his name now, but he's the bloke who you'll probably know, Mike. He was in Jurassic Park. He's the guy he gets eaten by the raptors. I can't remember his name in Jurassic Park. I can't remember his name in real life.
What, at the beginning?
Not at the end. Well, near the end. So he's like, clever girl.
We were talking about him. And
he passed away.
Yeah.
He's passed away 10 years ago or something, 10, 15 years ago now.
Yeah. Oh, Christ, what was his name? Yeah. Fuck.
You looking there?
No. I'm going to have to, though, aren't I?
Well, I'm just going to walk now quick.
Bob Peck. There you go.
Bob Peck.
Bob Peck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Christ.
So, and if you're a fan of the Labyrinth or Dark Crystal, highly recommend go and check out the Storyteller.
Awesome.
I used to watch it as a kid. It used to be on BBC Two. So I've always been pretty fond of it since being a kid, and I've got the DVD myself now, just of season 1. So 9 episodes. I think the episodes only span for about 20 minutes or something like that. The episode probably worth checking out is Soldier in Death, because there's some devils in that, which are really funny. And Hans My Hedgehog, which is another good episode as well, with a little hedgehog that was end up saving a king who's stuck in a forest.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go into like the story of the episodes or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just like people just hunt it down, either like download it or just track down the DVD. The DVD was in Sainsbury's a few months back for $5, so it's a $5 well spent if you come across it. You can probably get it cheaper than that in CEX now or something.
Yeah. Here's one for you though, with Labyrinth. You know the bit where she gets to the 2 doors, and they're like, one of us always tells the truth, and the other one always lies.
He always lies.
Oh, what a lie!
Yeah, I never lie.
Yeah. That never fucking made head nor tail to me. I could never kind of understand.
So is she saying she asks one of them, and she says, if I asked him, would he tell me does this lead to the Labyrinth or something? And would he say yes? And I can't remember. And he says no. Well, it's something like, well, you must be lying because I knew you said yes, and he said no. And yeah, it's a mind fuck, innit, basically.
It's a bit of a riddle, isn't it? It's kind of like, I've never kind of, saying that, I've never really sat down to think about it, but it's one of those where it's just kind of like, I enjoy the scene for what it is, because it always made me chuckle. Like, one of them is like Scottish, and I think the other one's supposed to be Irish.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's just
why have 2 of them got legs, and the other one's just got a head what just drops down from where he's cocky?
Yeah, let's not get into that. That is a little bit weird. Yeah.
Another thing, when he said about David Bowie's face appears throughout the film, like little snippets kind of thing.
Yeah.
In a way, the scene where David Bowie gives Hoggle the little peach, and he says, "Pass this to give this to Sarah, or dip it into the bugger. There's no stench."
Yeah.
In that opening scene, when it just comes on and Hoggle. It shows Hoggle walking. You see like a stoned face in the background, and when it moves and it's all in line, in focus.
Yeah. I mean, that's something else that you just remind me of. Obviously, like, he's got these crystal balls throughout the course of it, and it's there's a little bit of religious illusion going on because he gives Hoggle one of the crystal balls that turns into, is it a peach?
Peach, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then she eats the peach, and isn't she in kind of like a forest or a garden or something when she eats the peach, and then she...
You think like Snow White?
Yeah, he essentially roofies her with a peach, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because she passes out. But, it's just the whole kind of the imagery of, a woman in a garden, eating fruit and then being expelled from that garden kind of thing. I don't know if that was purposefully alluding to the Garden of Eden for some reason or whatnot, but
could be
yeah, maybe
a few nods at other things in this film.
Yeah, so. I mean I think that's why it's kind of like it's endured, and it's because it didn't do well when it came out, did it? When I was looking into it, I think it only made like 12 million. Didn't make a lot of money.
What was the budget?
More than 12 million. I think it was about 25, something like that. So it barely made half of its budget back. And it was one of those that became, popular on home media.
Yeah. That's the thing, it's got a big following now, hasn't it?
Yeah, massive.
Since its cinema release.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be one of those victims to kind of like what's going on today with like sensibilities changing around about, damsels in stress and female, characters in cinema and all this kind of stuff, because, well, the premise is a little bit weird, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Very weird.
Yeah, and it's...
Let's not get into that again, though, Mike.
Well, no, but I'm just kind of like... I don't know if this is... Do you think this is going to be a film that's still well regarded in, let's say, 2 generations' time? Or is it one of those that is, people are going to... Well, you shouldn't like that film because it depicts, a young girl being a slave to an older man and all this kind of shit.
Well, maybe after people listen to this episode, they might be thinking the same.
Well, I hope not, because I think it's kind of like... It's one of those...
I don't know. I mean,
it's a fairy tale in the old sense of the word, isn't it? It's kind of,
It depends how dig you deep into the film, innit?
Yeah, I suppose.
How deep you go into the film.
Yeah.
I mean, when we touched about David Bowie, if it's her mum running off with somebody who looks like David Bowie from the theatre, maybe it is David Bowie, I don't know, and she's having a fantasy about that bloke, the Goblin King.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
it's just something that I've just wondered then, because what females want out of their characters in cinema now seems to be different than what it obviously was back in the 80s, and the whole thought about girls just wanting to be princesses and be swept off their feet by a chivalrous prince and blah blah blah, but that's all out of the window now. And I think a lot of the fondness for this film from those corners are people who grew up with it in the 80s. Do you know what I mean? And I don't necessarily think that people like... Well, you've got a little girl, for example.
Well, she loves it.
Well, that's probably because she shares, the film with you. She knows that you like it and you've shown it to her, and etc. etc. But I mean, you don't strike me as a social justice warrior or one of these kind of like male feminists who,
no.
are going to be kind of giving your daughter those kind of like thoughts or whatever. But
no, I just basically, it was kind of like, here's a film what I've always enjoyed, and just said, I think you'll enjoy it. Just put it on one time for her, and she loved it. And she loved it to the point where I think it was one Halloween party. There was a Halloween party coming up, and she was going to it, and we said, "Oh, do you want to dress up as go as a witch or something?" She went, "No, I want to go as the Goblin King." And my girlfriend said, I said to me on the slide, "I can't turn up there. Everybody else will be dressed up as witches, all the kids and Ghostbusters, and she turned up as the Goblin King with that wig on and stuff like that."
Why not? That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. Yeah. Fair play to her.
But it's just funny how she said it, that I won't go to the Goblin King. It's like, thinking she might go with, like, I don't know, do you know, like, go as Rapunzel or Snow White or something like a Disney character, Alice in Wonderland, because she's into all that, but she turned and said, "You want to go to the Goblin King?" So he must have made some impression on her anyway. Yeah.
I mean, I think this is going to be one of those films, like, because obviously you've not pushed any political agenda on your kid. I think, some people are going to push the political agenda on this kind of film. You've already got people kind of like who... There's a couple of YouTube channels where people watch movies like that have been out in the 80s and never seen them before, and then they react to them, and they're calling them out for certain use of certain words. Like one of them was rewatching Bill and Ted, never seen Bill and Ted before, and they called it out as being like a homophobic film because remember the scene where Bill and Ted kind of like they both think that each other's dead. And then they see each other and then they hug each other because they're relieved that they're not dead, and then they just kind of they both kind of like back off from themselves, brush themselves down, and both look at each other and just go "fag." Remember that scene?
Yeah, the second film. I was thinking the first one then, but it's the second film.
Oh, is it the second one? Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So it's just kind of like, really, yeah. I know what you're saying, but it doesn't necessarily. I don't know. I think the world's just getting a little bit too soft with shit like that. I get it could be deemed as insensitive, but there's other things to fucking worry about in the world, isn't there? But anyway, I digress.
I mean, for me, it's just a good fun watch.
Yeah,
that's it. And
I think that's the good thing about it. It's kind of like you just said. You've shown your daughter it, and she's enjoyed it. She's watched the film for what it is because she hasn't got any other kind of like thoughts behind it. She just sat down and
Exactly.
watched it, and she's been able to enjoy the movie for what it was meant to be, and it was meant to be something fantastical and fun and entertaining, even though it's kind of got these dark undertones. And I think, like, you know, obviously it's got one of the books on a bookshelf is like the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, and if you go back and you read like the original fairy tales, there's always that dark side to them. And to get rid of that dark side and kind of nerf the world and make everything, to take all of kind of like the scary elements out of stories or folklore, is to do young kids a disservice, because they grow up thinking that the world is this perfect place and nothing's going to hurt them. But the reality is it's not like that. You need to have that fear. You need to have that caution. And, you know, a good way to kind of teach them about things like that in a very gentle way is by telling them these, you know, old stories or myths of old, or, you know, fairy tales that have got that dark edge. And it's kind of like, just be careful, you know, when you cross someone in the woods and all this kind of shit, because, you know, it could come back and bite you in the ass. There's always kind of the, you know, the danger element there, and I think in getting rid of that and trying to shield your kids away from that kind of thing is not preparing them adequately for, you know, some things that they might face in later life. Yeah. But again, I'm just going off on a tangent. So, it's probably because I've not eaten today. I've had a crisp butty because I was fannying around before with some stuff for this vinyl stuff that I've started doing.
Oh yeah, you do a little plug then, Mike.
I'll do it in a bit. But I've been messing about with that. That's one of the reasons I didn't get round to watching or rewatching the movie for the podcast. So I've just kind of like gone off my memories of the film. But if I've ranted at all or kind of like gone off on really weird tangents this week, it's probably because I'm feeling a little bit kind of malnourished, because I've only eaten a crisp butty today. So I apologise to anyone listening to this podcast if I've, you know, been less coherent than normal. Okay, so you might as well sum the film up. I think I've summed it up a little bit there, but you might as well give us your summation.
Like I said at the start of the film, I think it's a childhood classic of mine, and it deserves a massive thumbs up. It is a classic, and I think it's one of these films that I'll probably always watch. I'll take it with me through the years. I think 10 years, 20, 30 years time, you know what I mean, I'll always be watching it, because I always find it a fun watch. I always enjoy it. Over the character in it. So everybody's got their own little place. Dynamis there, and you've got Hoggle, Guido, the Goblins herself, the Goblin King, Sarah. They've all got their little part to play. You've got Ambrosius the dog as well, who's not brave. You know, when he's going into battle with Dynamis, and he's like, charge, and he knocks one of the goblins off his little, like, that little dragon thing he's on, knocks him over, and he's running off, and Dynamis says, "Oh, tally ho!" And then he bumps into like a bit of a house dungeon and falls off. Falls off the dog, and the dog runs off and shuts the door to a house. Runs in a house and shuts the door behind him. He's like, "Let me in." Yeah, it's all good. There's good humour in it. So I think any age can watch it. So my little girl's been watching it. She's 4 now, going on to 5, and she's been watching it since she was easy 3-year-old or something like that, and it didn't scare her at all. But then again, she's watched Return to Oz as well, and that's never scared her, even though that scared the hell out of me with the Wheelers in that. The Wheelers, sorry, and Princess Mombi. That scared the hell out of me as a kid, but no, she loved it. If she could, she probably want to dress up as a Wheeler or Princess Mombi or something, Halloween party if she could, but yeah.
As long as she doesn't want to dress up as Firuza Balk, because we know where that leads.
God, yeah.
Don't show her the craft for a while, mate. So.
Yeah. If I show a Teen Wolf, she want to dress up as Michael J. Fox in Teen Wolf. Yeah. But, if you've not seen it already, what you're doing, you need to go and watch it. It's just a good, fun watch. Any age can watch it. It's got to be in the top 10 films for me. My personal faves, anyway.
Oh, really? That
Yeah, I hold it pretty high myself because I think it's I mean, my film was probably a top 10 film, probably differ a lot than yours. I think a lot of my top 10 films are like films I've grown up with. You know, obviously got your Star Wars in there, Back to the Future. They're definitely in the top 10. Aliens are definitely up there as well. But Labyrinth is up there as well. It's maybe not all of them films, but it's definitely in the top 10.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't tend to think of like my top 10 because I think it would be too difficult to actually narrow it down to.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have in a specific order. I think there'd be like 10 films like these are my top 10, and that's it. I could, you know what I mean? Films what I've got deep fondness for and could always watch any time of the day. But yeah, for people, go and check out The Storyteller, but also check out The Dark Crystal as well, because obviously James Henson.
Yeah. Well, this was Henson's last film, wasn't it?
Yeah, because was it 19? What did he pass away? 1990 or something?
Something like that. Yeah, I can't remember.
I think he was ill for a few years. I read about it online. He was ill for a few years, but he never told anybody about it. And when the people found out and they tried to help him, it was too. It was too late. Yeah.
Yeah, 1990 he died, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your thoughts, Mike?
It is one of those films that I remember fondly from being a kid. I think just the world that is created is kind of real and vivid and fantastical, and has its own kind of unique sense of time and place about it. It's like I said, I think a lot of it is owed to kind of like the humour that's brought to it by Terry Jones. It is kind of Monty Python-esque in a way. There is like moments of absurd humour in there, but it's so very British humour as well. And that kind of it helps. It helps you feel a little bit more at home when watching the film, when it's a little bit closer to your sensibilities, because you can watch a comedy, an American film that is like a comedy, and you can find certain things funny, but every now and then you'll find a joke in there that doesn't translate as well because it's predominantly made for an American audience. So it might be a joke about certain snacks that they have or certain drinks that they have over there that we don't have over here, and it's kind of like I don't understand why that's so fun. But with this, like, all of the humour is very, very British in a very stiff upper Brit kind of way. Like I was saying before about the scene with the worm where he's just like, come inside and have a cup of tea. You know what I mean? It's just it is very kind of quintessentially British humour, and it just. Yeah, it'll always be a classic for me, and I hope it's one of those films that is passed down through generations, because I feel like it could be in the future maybe misconstrued about its intentions. I don't think it's meant to be taken in any kind of political way. I think it's just meant to be taken for what it is, kind of thing.
I'm going to say another good thing as well about the film. What I've not mentioned is the set piece, like in the set pieces, like the stage work and everything in the background, what's going on, how just real it looks. You know what I mean? Even though it's like just a set, it still looks good now. You know what I mean? When she's walking through the forest and the woods and stuff, and
I mean, there are one or two shots where like there's an extension. You can tell it's just a painted wall, which is,
extent. The woods where they look out and like the goblin. It's there nearly there, the Goblin City. And you can see the Goblin City, but obviously it's painted. Yeah,
but that kind of gives it that kind of feel of the Wizard of Oz, because the Wizard of Oz was kind of the same way. Do you know what I mean? It was just kind of like the Yellow Brick Road kind of went off maybe 10 feet away from where the actors were, and then the rest of it was just a brick wall that was painted to look like the Emerald City with the...
Yeah, well, there's that scene with the worm. We keep going back to the worm scene.
Yeah.
When she's in the just before she meets the world, she gets frustrated and starts kicking the wall and stuff. She's like, oh, because she starts running, doesn't she? And then it keeps going on and on. The path, there's no turns or anything. It just keeps going on and on. She gets frustrated and she slides down the wall. I think just before that, you can see the road going straight, but it's kind of like you can obviously it's painted.
You know there's an extension.
You know, it's the walls. It's going to end somewhere, and they painted it to make it look like it goes on for miles when it doesn't.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like the downside of putting films like this onto high definition formats like Blu-ray and 4K and all that kind of stuff, because there's so much detail being drawn out of the actual the images on the screen, that it was never designed to kind of like be seen in such a high detail. So you will see a few joins here and there, and you'll probably see a wire that's holding up one of the ferries or something like that, and it's
I think there's a few scenes. I think it's when you meet Sir Didymus for the first time. I think you see his wires. When he jumps on top of Ludo's back, I think you see his wires there. But you've got to bear in mind as well, it's a 1986 film.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, the way I would see that is kind of like if I was to offer any advice for people who kind of get distracted by stuff like that, with a film like this, just kind of like focus on the film as if you were watching a stage play. Because if you go and watch Peter Pan on stage or something like that, you see the wires, when they're flying around the stage. Do you know what I mean? It's all part of it's part of the stagecraft. So it's one of them when you can see kind of like a painting, a matte painting, which is supposed to show the castle off in the distance, or the scope of the actual labyrinth itself, and you can tell it's a painting. It's just kind of like, just take it for what it is. Because the whole film has got that kind of stagey vibe to it. It feels like a very high-class kind of panto. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know where you're going,
Yeah. So, but yeah, like you said, the world itself is kind of like varied and kind of like real. There's a sense of realness to the whole world, and that's because of like all the tiny little background creatures and the things that are moving in the background, and it all just adds to the kind of sense of realism, and the full kind of makes the world itself feel fully formed. And
it's like, although everything, nothing seems clean in the in this world as well. It all seems very dirty. Like the we see all the little.
Yeah, it's kind of
it's like a living in city.
Yeah, it's kind of decayed to a certain extent.
Everything's crumbling and everything's dirty there.
Yeah, but you can. It's like the little fella who flips over the flagstones. It's kind of like, well, you start thinking about him, and you kind of like, well, how many more people are living underneath there?
Well, there was two, because you saw him when he flipped the first one over, and then later on he popped up again. There were two of them because there were four arms, and they turned it the opposite way.
Yeah, but I mean, is there an entire village underneath there?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just kind of, are they like Fraggles, maybe? That just kind of like live underneath, and it's just kind of all of those little and like the eyeballs that you pointed out in the moss, and all of those creatures, because there's so many of them and they're all so varied, it just makes the world feel kind of like a real lived-in place. And it's all kind of unique and stuff that you haven't really seen before, or up until that point it was stuff that you hadn't really seen before, and it's all very playful as well. So
I mean, another good funny scene as well was the Bug of Eternal Stench. I mean, I've always enjoyed that scene, but as a kid, it's what used to always make me laugh. When you were a kid, and especially with bars, you used to always have a giggle, like trumping and stuff like that, the fart noises and stuff like that. So obviously, when they're running across, when the stones come up and they're running across the Bog of Eternal Stench, and I think it's Sir Didymus when he gets on top of Ambrosius, he's like, just charge, and you start running across the rocks, making some noises. That used to always make me giggle, and just got
we used to have like playground games where we would push people into a big puddle and say, you've just fallen in the Bung of Eternal Stench, you stink down there. It's just, it's all fodder for the imagination, especially if you're a kid. You'd take elements from that and then you'd bring it into your playground games, and you'd mess about with it and stuff. And that's, those are the best kind of kids films where they can inspire you to kind of play in that world, use your imagination, and just kind of play in that world with your other friends and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, great film.
Yeah, top film. Have you got a favourite scene, Mike? Favourite scenes, maybe?
It's just the magic dance bit, isn't it? How can it not be?
Yeah.
Catchy music, fun lyrics, and just a real kind of like feel good scene. So yeah, magic dance for me.
Yeah, I think there was a few numerous scenes for me through the course of the film what stand out, and your introduction to Hoggle there, and when he's getting the furries, and I don't think I could really pick a scene because I just enjoy the whole film.
Yeah.
As a whole. Yeah, I think everybody plays the part well, as I mentioned previous. But if you've not seen it, what you do, you need to go and check it out.
Yeah. That and the magic dance scene and the bit where they're all coming back at the end, because I think that was supposed to be a little bit more downbeat. They all just disappeared in the end, if I remember rightly. She didn't say goodbye to them through the mirror. She said goodbye to them through the window, and they just kind of disappeared one by one.
Right.
But then they decided that they wanted something a little bit more upbeat for the ending.
Yeah, it was a nice upbeat feeling at the end when it's like they just appear in a bedroom and they're shooting and they're celebrating.
Yeah. But it is, like I said before, it is kind of like, even though it's a more upbeat ending, it is still kind of bittersweet in a way, because there is a sense of kind of like, things ending. But it's all right.
Yeah.
This is over, but you're going to be all right. You'll be okay. We'll always be here with you. It's like, the end of E.T., where it's kind of like, he's going away, but he'll always be, I'll be right here,
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, it's...
and it's one of these films about what does not need a remake.
No.
I think if this got announced for a remake, even if it was Back to the Future as well, I think I'd slip my wrist out. I don't think I could take it.
Well, I don't think you should go that far, mate. But it definitely doesn't. It definitely doesn't need a remake, but it did get a sequel. If you're interested, in comic book form.
Oh yeah, go on.
Well, there's just a sequel called I think it's Return to the Labyrinth or Return to Labyrinth.
Same characters, is it?
Yeah, I think it focuses... I haven't read it, but from what I've seen, it focuses on Jareth. He's kind of been keeping an eye on Toby.
All right.
So Toby's kind of like grown up. And he still wants him as his heir to the throne kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's a manga.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you're interested, I'm sure you should be able to find a copy. Return to Labyrinth is an English language manga. There you go. It's a 4-part series released between 2006 and 2007. So if anyone's interested as to what happened after the end of the film, go and check it out.
Checking out. Yeah. Do you just remind me on something then as well, Mike? Do you remember a few years ago there was they were doing like an event in, I think it was Chester, wasn't it, or something? I remember seeing it on Facebook and I messaged you and I was interested, and I think you messaged me and said you were thinking about going. Didn't they have some it was some garden somewhere, and it was themed like the Labyrinth, and they had Hoggle statues there and stuff. I remember you said you were thinking as well, or you was gonna go and you forgot all about it or something.
I can't remember now.
You can remember that, no?
No, how long ago was that?
Oh, I'm on about, must be 5 years ago now. Just when you mentioned that, then it just popped in my head.
I can't remember. I'll go to bed and I'll be like, oh yeah, I do remember it. Cause
yeah.
That tends to be the way with our conversations. You've got a much better memory for
those
kind of things than me. Then
yeah.
You'll say something to me and then like fucking 2 hours later I'll be like, actually I do fucking remember that now.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. I'm like I say, I'm getting on in the years now, mate. So it's
yeah, it was definitely you anyway. Commented, I think I was interested in it, and then you commented, said, "Oh, I was gonna go myself and see that looked pretty good because they show a picture of Hoggle or something, and there's a few other characters there, Ludo, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like it could have been cool, that.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's a yearly event they do or if it's like just like every few years they do it. I'm not sure.
Maybe there'll be another one like when it comes up to
Like an anniversary or something.
an anniversary. Yeah, I mean,
well, it's getting close to 35 year now, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose.
Is it next year? This year? Next year is it 35 year?
86. No, it'll be 21.
Oh, so we've got a few years then, haven't we?
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Well, we might get a Blu-ray release around about that time as well, or like a collector's set or something.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I'm officially out of everything to say about this film at the moment.
Yeah.
So, I think we'll...
I've just got to the scene now. You know where they get to Goblin City and they take on that big armoured, like...
The gate that turns into...
the gate, the guy's controlling that big robot kind of thing, and he's controlling it. He's got the big axe.
Yeah.
And making a documentary, I think, if I remember right, I think it was only one guy controlled that, like, robot with his hand.
All right.
Yeah, just one guy. You think it'd take like 5, 6, 7 or whatever people.
I suppose it's kind of, there's not much kind of movement or articulation to that. It just kind of lumbers about though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, it's like Ludo. I mean, if you, because there's only one guy in there, if you rewatch the film, you'll notice that I think it's his left hand or his left arm kind of hangs for a big portion of it, because the way that the guy actually manipulated the puppet was he would use one hand to move the head and the mouth, and then the other one would be in like the arm, so he could never manipulate or move like both arms and the head at the same time because he's only got 2 arms. He's not like the T-1000. So the left arm kind of dangles quite often, and once you've seen it you can never kind of unsee it, because it's always just kind of like hanging there, doesn't really move. Every now and then he'll swap it up, so he will move the left arm, but then the right arm isn't moving, because he's constantly got one hand like up, moving the head. So he would stand with his arm above his head, and then like his other arm down the sleeve of one of the arms of Ludo. And that's how he would operate that puppet. Apparently he had a mini camera in one of the horns as well, which fed into a TV, a miniature monitor inside Ludo, so he could see what he was doing. But back in 1986, I mean, how big's that little fucking TV going to be? Because I remember having a little black and white TV, which was like a tiny screen, maybe about 5-inch screen, but the actual casing for the TV was like a box, like a long box that went kind of like the length of, I don't know, maybe about 14 inches backwards, even though it had like a little handle, like a mini briefcase kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
that must have add some weight to it as well.
I bet, yeah. I mean, it looks like a big, heavy, lumbering thing anyway, doesn't it?
If I remember right, on the making, I'm sure they said Ludo, like the outfit itself was like £200 or something, and when Jim Henson got wind of that, he was like, no, you're going to have to make it lighter. I mean, we've got to put a bloke in there. But because I think it was getting so hot in there, I think he used to swap with another bloke. And
there was 2 main operators for that one. Yeah, they would swap it out. So yeah. Anyway, that's the last little factoid for Labyrinth. I think we should wrap it up there, because this podcast is now almost as long as the Lord of the Rings one. Believe it or not. I think it might have actually just gone over.
But also as well, if you're a fan of the Labyrinth, after listening to after watching the movie and also listening to this episode as well, go and check out Jump Council podcast, because Dean over there, a few months ago now, he covered the Labyrinth in one of his soundtracks episodes. So go and check that out as well, because he calls David Bowie a tricky bastard.
He does, wherever you get your podcast from, if you search Jump Cancel Podcast, he did the Labyrinth episode for the OST, so you can listen to pretty much most of the soundtrack on there.
We'll share it on the cover art anyway as well. He's like, his logo and stuff. So
yeah, I'll throw a link on there as well. So, but if anyone's interested in the meantime, just search Jump Cancel Podcast wherever you get your podcast from: iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, wherever you get them from. And yeah, go and download and listen to Dean's episode on Labyrinth. Because it's good, good music on it, and then, apart from the fire dance one, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to get in touch with us, is the Untitled Film Podcast on Instagram and Facebook and blah blah blah. You can drop us a line at untitledfilmpod@gmail.com if you wish. And I'm going to do a shameless plug. I've just started doing a small sideline business, printing vinyl decals and logos out, and doing some custom t-shirts if anyone is interested, or if anyone needs anything like that doing for like a car or a bike, anything that you would stick vinyl decals on, then check out Lister Prints on Facebook. It's the @ Lister Prints, and you will find me there. That's all I've got. That's all I've got, really.
So what we're coming back with next time, mate? What's the next episode?
Well, I've been struggling.
Your pick.
Yeah, it is. I've been struggling. I know you've been kind of like nudging me gently in the direction of doing John Wick 2, but John Wick 3... It is actually John Wick Chapter 3, and then Parabellum. So they put they put the Chapter 3 back in there.
In there.
Yeah.
Maybe they listened to our episode.
Maybe they took it under advisement from our podcast. Yeah. It would be nice to think that.
Maybe Keanu's had a word.
yeah, hopefully. So yeah, I wonder if they'll do Bill and Ted Chapter 3. What do you reckon?
I don't know. What's it called?
Bill and Ted. I can't remember.
It has got a title now.
Bill and Ted 3, but I don't know. Just, to make it like John Wick and just put Chapter 3 in front of it. Yeah, so I know you've been nudging me to do John Wick Chapter 2. But the third one's not out until May, so we've got a little bit of time. I think we'll have a breather from that one.
Right.
I've just been looking on my shelf, and do you know what? Yeah. We've had a kids film, so let's go for something a little bit more adult, and that's not the type of films I have on my shelves. But let's go with Dredd. Not Judge Dredd. No, not Judge Dredd. Dredd. Yeah.
The Carl Urban Dredd.
The Carl Urban. The proper.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my pick for the next episode. Dredd. I am aware that I still need to do the split commentary, guys. I really can't pull myself around to fucking watch that film again. I am sorry. I will do it. I promise. But
You need to get something to eat first, though.
I'm not doing it now. No, I'm up for work. I'm up for work early, but I will get around to the time's past now. Anyway, fucking anyone who cared about Glass doesn't really care about listening to me waffle on about Split. But I probably will do Split when Glass comes out on home media, so I can do Split and then Glass and then take a piss all over that. So yeah,
it's like Hogwarts group.
yeah. So I'll probably get another couple of commentaries coming out soon, but I just can't bring myself to watch Split again. And yeah, sorry about that.
Dredd next up for us then.
Dredd, yeah.
Well, I really enjoy that. I've only seen it once. Got it on 3D actually. It is on Blu-ray.
Yeah, 3D. It's one of the rare 3D Blu-rays that I've got, but I watched it in Blu-ray in 3D at the cinema because the whole point of this film was to be shown in 3D. Which I think kind of hurt the film, but we'll get into that anyway next time. Say goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys. Until next time, take it easy.